Rui, a 15-year-old boy who still has no magical abilities, is often bullied by his friend Elena. Elena is Rai's friend who bullies him in every way because he has no magical skills. On this day, Elena, as usual, mocks Rui. In this world, almost everyone has at least some unique magical power, while Rui did not have it, which upset him greatly. Besides this, Rui had problems not only with magic, but also with sports, which only upset him even more. Unlike Rui, Elena learned to use magic at the age of 3. As Elena grew older, her magical skills grew. In addition, Rui was even more upset not only by Elena's superiority, but also by the fact that she would never be able to understand all his pain. Elena also trained Rui in magic, hoping that sooner or later he too would be able to gain some kind of magical power. However, Rui was not very happy with the fact that it was Elena who was training him, which the girl did not enjoy. At one point, Rui simply cannot withstand all the pressure that constantly surrounds him. Then he tells Elena that today he wants to practice magic on his own. Elena was surprised by this decision, and she starts a scandal with Rui, in which she told him that people like him could never learn magic on their own, thus trying to provoke Rui into fighting her. At one point, Elena can't take it anymore and tells Rui that since he can't use even the most basic magic, he's just as much of a pathetic loser as his deceased parents. These words touched Rui's soul very deeply, since his parents died a long time ago when Rui was still very little. Then Rui, not holding back all his anger at Elena, tells her that from now on he will no longer meet with her. Elena couldn't believe what she heard, which left her simply at a loss. Rui said that he didn't even see Elena as a friend, as he was very irritated by her arrogant behavior. With these words, Rui ran away from Elena towards the forest, while Elena herself could not believe everything that was said above. After such an unpleasant conversation, Rui was able to reach the forest after some time, where he decided to start training in magic. In preparation for casting the spell, Rui attempts to use wind magic. However, as before, nothing worked out for Rui, which made him extremely disappointed with himself. Rui still couldn't stop thinking about what Elena had said about his parents. A little later, Rui pulls himself together and continues trying to summon wind magic. After several attempts, Rui began to think again that, as usual, he was failing at nothing. Rui also noticed that recently there was a different atmosphere in the forest. Rui thinks that the atmosphere in the forest has become different because of the monsters that may live in this forest, and he decides to leave the forest as soon as possible. As Rui began to walk away, he saw a very strange glowing hole in the ground, from which a very strong magic was emanating, which even he could sense. Rui decides to go back and tell everyone else about the hole, but through carelessness he falls into that very hole. After the fall, Rui briefly lost consciousness, and a few minutes later he wakes up and sees that he was in some strange place, in which, at first glance, there was nothing. After Rui woke up, he began to remember everything that happened to him before he got here. While Rui was thinking, a beautiful, busty woman in a revealing black robe appeared behind him. Rui was very confused when he saw the woman, because he had never met such beautiful women in his life. Taking a closer look, Rui notices small horns on the woman's head, thinking she is a demon. Rui read in one book that demons are extremely cruel and cunning creatures that can control very strong magic. The beautiful woman confirmed Rui's suspicions, telling him that he had immediately guessed that she was a demon. Rui, at a loss, introduced himself to the demon somewhat awkwardly and said that it was the first time he had seen such a demon. The demon was very surprised by such courage of Rui, despite the fact that in his village the elders told the children about demons, that they are very dangerous for people. Despite this, Rui said that he was apparently not afraid of this demon because she was very beautiful. The demon became very embarrassed by these words because for the last tens of thousands of years no one had praised her for anything, especially for her beauty. Rui noticed how embarrassed the demon was, and he immediately began to ask her forgiveness for such unexpected words. After that, another girl appeared behind Rui, who was already shorter and had tanned skin, and she also had a long scaly tail and wings. Rui greeted the girl, which she didn't like at all, but she was surprised by his courage. After this, the girl introduces herself as the 7th Dragon Queen. After hearing this, Rui became very worried, as dragons were considered the strongest race in the world. The girl was pleased with how she introduced herself to Rui, and in doing so she surprised him greatly. After this, the girl asked Rui if he knew who this demon was. After hearing this, the demon remembers that she never introduced herself to Rui. The woman then introduced herself as Destarosa, the 66th Demon Queen, who rules over all the darkness and chaos of this world. After this, Rui was extremely frightened and greatly shocked by what he heard at the same time. However, Rui still didn't fully understand whether they could really be the Demon Queen and the Dragon Queen. Destarossa thought that Rui didn't see her as the Demon Queen just because he thought she was beautiful, while the Dragon Queen didn't understand how Destarossa was so easily embarrassed by his compliments. After that, they had a small quarrel, looking at which Rui thought that they both got along well with each other and probably were even friends. During this argument, they both decide to transform and show Rui their true forms. During the transformation process, Destarossa's clothes were almost completely torn. Meanwhile, the Dragon Queen's outfit had completely disappeared, and in some places a hard, scaly layer began to appear. At this time, Rui felt an extremely powerful flow of magical energy that he had never felt before. After the transformation, the Dragon Queen turned into a huge and formidable dragon, and Destarossa acquired a new, even more revealing outfit than she had before. After this, Rui was completely convinced that the ones in front of him were the Demon Queen and the Dragon Queen. Rui remembered a legend in which a long time ago there lived a hero who had talents for magic, swordsmanship, and a good-natured character. One day, this hero saved the world from the Dragon Queen and the Demon Queen, thereby saving people from their evil deeds, after which he himself disappeared. Then Rui realized that these were the very same Dragon Queen and Demon Queen that this hero had imprisoned here. However, Rui did not understand why they were not defeated, but only imprisoned here. He then guessed that the Dragon Queen and the Demon Queen were so strong that he was unable to defeat them completely but only trapped them in this empty space. Then he thought that they might know how they can get out of here, and he decides to ask them about it. After Rui's question, Destarossa tells him that it is simply impossible to get out of here. At that time, Rui was in despair that he would spend the rest of his life here. The Dragon Queen only added that if they knew how to get out of here, they would not be here anymore. After this, the Dragon Queen decides to show Rui her seal, which appeared on her when she arrived here. The Dragon Queen said that this seal was placed on them by the hero who left them here in captivity for many years. She also added that it was because of this seal that their souls were now closely connected to this place. Then Rui began to look for this seal on his body, and as it turned out, he did not have such a seal. Then Destarossa began to undress Rui to try to find the seal of imprisonment on him. As it turned out, Rui really didn't have any seal, and no one knew why exactly he didn't have a seal. Then Rui said that he got here after he fell into some strange hole in the ground. Destarossa thought that he had ended up here due to some strange accident. Destarossa also suggested that he might still be able to get out of here. Hearing this, Rui said that he was ready to do anything to leave this strange place. Hearing this, the Dragon Queen and the Demon Queen were surprised by Rui's loud promises. Rui, in turn, did not fully understand what exactly they wanted from him. Then Destarossa said that Rui could make a hole in that place through which he could escape. Then Rui said that he couldn't use magic on his own, and thus he couldn't make a hole in this space. Destarossa told Rui that he couldn't not use magic at all. Destarossa then offers to train Rui in order to increase his magical powers. To help him understand better, Destarossa explained to Rui that magic is like a muscle, and the more he uses it, the stronger it becomes. But despite this, if he overdoes it with his efforts, then his magic may completely run out, and then he may die from it. Destarossa also added that in order to train as effectively as possible, he would have to bring his condition to the point of near fatality as often as possible. Destarossa said that 500 years of training would be enough for Rui, which shocked him greatly, thinking that he simply would not live that long. Then the Dragon Queen told Rui that time passes differently here, and that here 1 year is equal to 1 day on Earth. Then, if Rui spends 500 years in this space, then only 500 days will pass on Earth. The Dragon Queen said that if they trained him, he would be able to get out of here. Rui thought that they would not help him for no reason, and then they said that in exchange he would help them get out, and he could not refuse such an outcome of events. The next day, Destarossa began training Rui, which he was very grateful for. Destarossa reminded Rui that it would take him 500 years to master all the most powerful magic techniques. Rui wanted to know if time in this place really moved as the Dragon Queen said. Destarossa said that this was indeed the case, and that she had once verified it herself with the help of magic. Then Rui remembered the elder in the village who took care of him when his parents died. He thought that the elder there would be worried about him, and that after all this training he would definitely return to him. He told Destarossa that he would try his best to get out of here as soon as possible. After saying this, she pats Rui on the head, thereby praising his aspiration. Rui remembered how before his mother died, he too stroked his head, which gave Rui a pleasant warm feeling that he had not felt for a long time. However, Destarossa asked for forgiveness if he were to die here, which caused Rui's emotional mood to suddenly change to a more depressive one. During his training with Destarossa, Rui practiced his magical skills for a long time. After such training, Rui crawled to the Dragon Queen completely exhausted. The Dragon Queen could tell from Rui's exhausted state that Destarossa was training him very well. Before Rui had time to recover his strength, the Dragon Queen was already ready to train him. The Dragon Queen said that she would train Rui not in magic but in a special technique called Qigong. The Qigong technique was unique in that it fully revealed the full potential of any magician. There were very few people in the human world who used the Qigong technique, but this technique was not inferior to ordinary magic in power. The Dragon Queen told Rui that if he mastered this technique, he would be able to defeat even a dragon with ease. The study of Qigong technique is based on 9 exercises, which are divided into attack and defense exercises. Any person who can learn all the exercises will be able to overcome any difficulties in his path. Rui didn't understand why no one used such powerful magic. The Dragon Queen explained that this technique is very difficult to master. She also explained that in recent years, it has become much easier for people to use magic, and that everyone can easily use basic magic, while the Qigong technique must be diligently studied for years. This didn't frighten Rui too much, since for him, training in Qigong techniques should be as difficult as training in ordinary magic. The Dragon Queen also added that to learn the Qigong technique, a person does not need any talent, and all training was based only on diligence in learning. Rui said he would try his best and he can't wait to start training. However, the Dragon Queen did not mention that Rui must memorize everything he would learn. After the explanation, Destarossa came to them and said that the training program would change every week. The Dragon Queen thought that Rui should learn Qigong before Destarossa could teach him how to use magic. 10 years after Rui ended up in the endless hell, his magic skills have become much stronger. Destarossa was satisfied with the results of her training, but she also understood that Rui needed to continue training. Destarossa noticed all of Rui's progress and saw him becoming a real magician. Destarossa was also surprised by how Rui never showed any signs of fatigue during all of her continuous training. At the end of the training, Destarossa told Rui that he had enough for today, but Rui claimed that he could still continue despite his almost complete lack of magical energy. Rui also said that he had been working very hard in training, and that he couldn't just take a break. Destarossa thought that Rui had an unhealthy desire to master magical skills. Then she decides to tell him that he tries very hard to show himself in all her training sessions. She also added that despite how weak a magician he was in his world, all his efforts brought him results. After this, Destarossa decides to transfer some of his magic power to Rui through his magic channel. She explained to him that magicians like him had very little magical power, and so she could only transfer a small amount of magical energy to him. She also explained that if he did not use this magic, his magical power would weaken, and over time he would not be able to use his magic at all, which scared Rui very much. After this, Destarossa began the process of transferring magical energy to Rui. As she transferred some of her magical energy to him, she noticed that over the course of his training, Rui's magical channels had become more stretched compared to other people. After transferring the magical energy, Destarossa kept telling Rui that with each training, he and his magic were becoming stronger. At first, Destarossa's words touched Rui very much, since no one had ever praised him as much as they did now. A little later, he calmed down and told Destarossa that he was very pleased to hear such warm words of support. Rui also said that he was very glad that he came to this place and ended up with them, affectionately calling Destarossa "little sister." She was so embarrassed by the way Rui called her that she simply fainted. At first, Rui became very worried about Destarossa, but the Dragon Queen told him that she was just crazy and that she would soon come to her senses. After seeing this, the Dragon Queen told Rui to rest before training with her. During his training, Rui was able to do 100 push-ups with a very heavy stone on his back. After this, the Dragon Queen told Rui to rest before the next exercise. She was pleasantly surprised by how the first visible results of her training began to appear. She also noted how Rui was able to master the Qigong technique in 10 years of training. While she was pondering Rui's abilities, she noticed how he, hiding from her, continued to do push-ups, which she really didn't like. She was very unhappy with this behavior, telling Rui that he should not overexert himself under any circumstances. Rui said that because he was extremely weak in his world, he had to train as much as possible. The Dragon Queen kept telling him that it was all nonsense and that his physique was more than strong and resilient, which Rui simply didn't believe. He said that he was the weakest and slowest in his world, and that the Dragon Queen would not be able to understand him because she was very strong. The Dragon Queen realized that Rui was a child with complexes and that she needed to somehow fix it. She then tells Rui that thanks to his efforts, his physique is getting stronger with each training session. She explained to him that he considered himself weak only because he had not previously known how effectively he could use his body. She also drew his attention to the fact that his body had very effective regeneration, and that he should be grateful to nature for the fact that he was born so strong. Rui was very touched by the Dragon Queen's words about his unique physique. After this, he decides to ask the Dragon Queen what her parents were like. She replied that her parents died when she was very young, and that she didn't even remember their faces. After this question, Rui began to feel a little awkward after her question, thinking that she was not comfortable remembering it. But instead, the Dragon Queen just chuckled and told Rui not to think about it, and that she also had a strong body that she received after birth. After this, Rui could not contain his emotions and rushed into the Dragon Queen's arms, thinking to himself that they had a lot in common. She didn't fully understand what exactly was going on, to which Rui replied that she had also tried very hard. After this, the Dragon Queen understood what exactly was going on, and after a short hug, she began to calm him down. After that, Rui felt better and said that the Dragon Queen was the same as him before, and that he would not whine anymore. By this time, Destarosa had already managed to come to her senses, and she understood that everything had worked out for them with each other. In his 100th year in the Endless Hell, Rui became much stronger, and he could even use some magical techniques. He wanted to show the Dragon Queen his results, and he called her as Rio. Then she remembered how Rui had once asked her if she had any name. Before, when she was terrifying people, everyone knew her as the Dragon Queen, and no one saw her as a person. And after hearing this, he decided to address her as Rio. Rui distracted Rio from his thoughts, and he wanted to know if his magic had improved. Rio also said that his magical skills had become much stronger compared to those he had demonstrated during previous training. After this, Rio began to praise Rui for being able to master half of all the offensive and defensive techniques of Qigong in just 100 years. Rui later told Rio that every time she touched him, his heart began to beat faster and faster. Rio was shocked by what she heard, while Rui continued to say that her skin was very soft and that she smelled very good. Rui kept complimenting Rio, which made her feel even more embarrassed. After that, she began to beat Rui for what he had just told her, considering him a pervert. Rui didn't understand what exactly he said about her, thinking that he had said too much. At this time, Rio, who couldn't stop thinking about what Rui had just told her, was also thinking about how much he embarrassed her. At that moment, Destarosa approached them so that she could discuss some issues with Rio regarding further training. Rui then decides to leave Destarosa with Rio and continue training away from them. Destarosa pointed out to Rio how they had become friends with each other during their training. She reminded Rio of how before Rui came here, they would constantly fight each other to the death. Then they both realized how much had changed in the Endless Hell since Rui had appeared. Then Destarosa thought about how everything had become so fun for them from that moment on. After this, Rui decides to approach Destarosa with a question about his magical abilities. However, instead of listening to Rui, she tells him to stop calling her by her first name. Then, Rui tries to remember how he should address Destarosa, and when he remembered, he addressed her as sister, which almost made Destarosa lose consciousness. After this, Destarosa pounced on Rui with open arms. Afterwards, Rui and Destarosa begin training, where Rui shows her his abilities in using his fire magic skills. Destarosa was very pleased with how his skills had become so strong after 100 years in the Endless Hell. However, despite such a rapid growth of abilities, their moment of separation is getting closer and closer. At this moment, Rui runs up to her so that he can find out if she is satisfied with his abilities. But when Rui ran up to Destarosa, he noticed that she had started to cry. Rui was very worried because his little sister suddenly started crying. Destarosa, in turn, continued to cry and hugged Rui tightly, telling him that she was crying precisely because of him. Destarosa, not holding back her emotions, promised herself that she would definitely return him to her world, even if they never saw each other again. After 300 years in Endless Hell, Rui was able to learn to use the Dark Flame, one of the most complex and powerful spells. Destarosa and Rio were pleased that Rui was able to master magic that only high-ranking demons could use. Destarosa explained that she would occasionally transfer some of her magical energy to Rui through magical channels so that he could use his magical skills more effectively. She was extremely pleased with how quickly Rui was able to master such complex spells. Rio said that Rui was also making great progress in her training and that he had mastered all the skills of Qigong. After the training session, Destarosa and Rio once again praised Rui for his efforts and desire. After training, Rui noted that it was already late and that it was time for them all to sleep, to which Destarosa and Rio agreed. A second later, Rui fell to the ground from an unpleasant pain in his chest, and Destarosa and Rio immediately tried to find out what happened to him. When they removed his outer clothing, they noticed a barely visible gray military marking on him. Rui was scared, while Destarosa and Rio were happy for him, because such a mark only appears on professional warriors. Then Rui calmed down and wanted to know if Destarosa and Rio had similar marks. Then Destarosa slightly removed some of her clothing so that Rui could see her mark. She said that it depicted a royal mark, which was higher in status than a military mark, and showed that the bearer of such a mark was worthy of the royal title. Rio also showed off her mark on her palm, which signified her royal family affiliation. Then Rui decides to find out what exactly is written on his military mark. Destarosa and Rio read the contents of the mark, and it said that Rui was a warrior of demons and dragons. Destarosa was overjoyed and proud of Rui when she heard this, and she immediately began to hug him tightly. However, Rio said that this mark is not finished, and to be fully completed, it must turn silver. Rui felt that in order to complete it, he had to train more and harder. However, Rio said that his current body has reached the limit of what it should be at his age. In the endless hell, no one ages, and therefore Rui's body does not grow, causing him to be unable to surpass his threshold of maximum power for his magic skills. And the only way to surpass this threshold is to escape from the endless hell. Destarosa tells Rui that his skills are now more than enough for him to leave the endless hell. Then Rui decides to rest today, and tomorrow he will try to get out. A little later, Rui returns to the small house where he lived to rest and gain strength throughout these 300 years of training. In his dream, Rui accidentally grabs something very large, soft and pleasant to the touch. When he woke up, he saw Destarosa in front of him in her underwear, whom he had been holding by the breast all this time. Destarosa was pleasantly surprised that Rui immediately decided to grab onto her. This sight frightened Rui very much, and he did not understand what was happening now. After this, Rio, who was also in her underwear, attacked Rui. Rui was still confused by the appearance of Destarosa and Rio, and he still did not understand what exactly they wanted to do with him. Then Destarosa explained to him that since he would be leaving them tomorrow, she and Rio had to say goodbye somehow. Rio said that their strength and knowledge are not all they can give to Rui. Then they told Rui that they could give him his first time too. After saying this, Destarosa immediately kissed Rui, which made him very excited. After the kiss, Destarosa kept telling Rui how much she loved him. After Destarosa, Rio also began to kiss Rui, thereby showing all her affection for him. After the kiss, Destarosa noted how embarrassed Rio was, which she in turn denied. After this, another quarrel began between Destarosa and Rio, in which they began to justify themselves by saying that this was the first time this had happened to them. Rui could only silently watch their quarrel from the sidelines. After this, the Destarosas stopped arguing, and they were both ready to pounce on the defenseless Rui. Rui was very confused and frightened by the situation he had unwittingly found himself in. However, Destarosa and Rio were no longer able to be stopped, and they were ready to continue their fun with Rui. The next day, Destarosa and Rio explained to Rui what he needed to get out of the endless hell. Rui just looked at Destarosa and Rio and thought about the day he ended up here. He could not forget those very first training sessions that had tormented him to the point of death. He couldn't forget those moments with Destarosa and Rio when he had so much fun with them. Rui understood that these days of his life had come to an end and that today he would return home. After this, Rui began to prepare one of his spells that would create a hole in space through which he would return home. Before Rui can create a portal, Rio interrupts his spell to tell him something important. Rio gives Rui his Dragon Fang earring so that he can use it to create a hole in space. Rio tells Rui to take her earring and channel all his magic power into it. Rui took Rio's earring, directed his magical power into it, and in his hands, instead of an earring, he found himself holding a dragon sword. Rui was surprised by how much magical power was coming from his sword. Rio informed Rui that this was no ordinary sword, but a relic of his father, made from his fangs. She also added that there are only 2 such swords in the entire world, and she gives one such sword to Rui as a memory of them. Rui wanted to say that he couldn't accept such a gift from Rio, but she didn't listen and interrupted him. Rio continued to talk about how she was giving him this relic for a reason, and that he had to fully understand this if he didn't want to accept it. Rui then changes his mind and decides to accept the sword, promising Rio that he will cherish it. Rio was satisfied with Rui's decision, after which she explains to him how to properly use the sword. Within a few minutes, Rui was ready to use his sword to cut through the space between the human world and the endless hell. Rui began to concentrate all his magical power on the sword, after which he made a strong and confident swing. After his strike, a large crack appeared in the air from which a bright light came. As the crack grew and became larger, Rui began to say goodbye to Destarosa and Rio, not holding back his emotions. Before Rui leaves them, the three of them begin to hug. Destarosa wished Rui a safe journey and that he be careful upon returning to his world. Rio wished Rui good luck and told him that they would always wait for his return. Ryu couldn't believe that this was the end, and that after passing through the crack he would finally find himself in his world. He also thought that he would definitely free them from the endless hell in order to continue living with them. Before returning to his world, he told Destarosa and Rio that he would definitely free them from here. Destarosa and Rio just watched as Rui left them. A second later, Rui passed through the crack, after which it closed, letting Destarosa know that Rui had left them. Rio told Destarosa that now, for the first time in 300 years, they were alone in an endless hell. Then, Destarosa grabbed Rio and started crying loudly, which Rio didn't expect from her at all. Destarosa kept talking about how much she was already jumping around Rui. Then Rio started trying to calm her down, thinking to herself that she had never done this before. Rio never ceased to be amazed that the Demon Queen was capable of such emotions. Once Destarosa had calmed down a bit, she decided to ask Rio if she missed Rui. Rio said that she believes in Rui and that she doesn't feel as alone now as she did before they had Rui. After Rio's words, Destarosa's emotions got the better of her again, and she then began to cuddle Rio, calling her cutie. Then Destarosa told Rio that if she felt lonely, they needed to hug immediately. After this, Destarosa began to hug Rio tightly, who tried to fight her off in every possible way. Rio became increasingly anxious for Rui to return to them as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Rui was between dimensions, through which he must get to his world. Rui also missed Destarosa and Rio very much, whom he would not see for some time. However, he pulls himself together and thinks that he will definitely save them. A little later, he finds another crack that should move Rui to his world. Rui then takes out his sword, which Rio gave him, and strikes it at the crack to make it bigger. When he widened the crack and walked through it, he found himself in the same forest in which he found the hole in the ground through which he entered the endless hell. It was only seconds later that Rui finally realized that he was finally home. Rui's happiness simply knew no bounds, and he decided not to delay and return to his native village. However, during his stay in the endless hell, he managed to forget the way home. At first, Rui wanted to climb the tree and look around, but as soon as Rui jumped, he found himself at a very great height. From such a height, Rui was able to look around and see the sea and his native village nearby. As soon as Rui saw all this beauty, he realized what a small world he had lived in before. At first, Rui thought about how he could save Destarosa and Rio, but he wasn't entirely sure that he could do it. Then Rui plans to return to his home first to make sure that nothing has changed there since his disappearance. After coming home, Rui packed some things and was going to go to a very important place for him. This place turned out to be a large stone, where Rui's mother and father were buried. Rui apologized for his long absence and said that next time he would introduce them to Destarosa and Rio. At that moment, the elder who raised Rui and looked after him after the death of his parents appeared behind Rui. The elder wanted to ask Rui where he had been all this time, to which Rui said that it was too long a story. Rui apologized to the elder for being gone for so long, and he was very happy to see the elder. Then the elder invites Rui to go to him to give him something warm. Rui then created a large fireball and told the elder that he must go. The elder was shocked at how Rui was able to create such a fireball so easily. Rui said that he was fine and that he was not as weak as before. The elder saw an unprecedented confidence in his abilities in Rui's eyes, and he also said that he would look after Rui's house. Rui thanked the elder for his concern, after which he went on about his business. While Rui was walking, Elena noticed him and immediately began to tell Rui how angry she was with him. Elena thought that since Rui had returned, he wanted to make peace with her. Rui told Elena that her arrogance had not changed in all the time he had been gone, and that she should finally grow up. Elena was in deep shock from what Rui told her, because before his disappearance he had not behaved so boldly with her. Elena, in a fit of rage, immediately decided that Rui should answer for his words, and she was already preparing to strike Rui. However, contrary to all of Elena's expectations, Rui manages to repel her attack without receiving a single scratch. Elena was confused as to how Rui was able to stop one of her most powerful moves. Rui told Elena that she doesn't see anyone around her, and that she can't see how the people around her are getting stronger while her skills remain the same. Then Elena only gets more angry and she tries to cause some damage to Rui again. However, despite her fast attacks, Rui still manages to dodge every one of her attacks. After this, Rui decides to use one of his Qigong techniques, during which he delivers a powerful kick to Elena's face. After such a strong blow, Elena fell to the ground, but even after that she did not stop commanding Rui, ordering him to lift her up. Instead, Rui only says goodbye to Elena, telling her not to get in other people's way again. Elena still didn't stop shouting after Rui that sooner or later she would still be with him. On the way, Rui remembers a conversation with Dronzer and Rio, in which they discussed a plan for how Rui could rescue them from the endless hell. Dronzer suggested that the first thing to do is find some information about the hero who imprisoned them, since only he knows how to remove the seals from them. Rui assumed that this hero must have already died, but Rio said that his relatives or his family might also know about how to free them from here. Then, Rui decides that when he returns home, he will have to find the hero's grandchildren. Along the way, Rui decides to first find out about the hero's grandchildren from the people in Escadria, the capital of the continent. However, Rui did not know which direction the capital was, and he decides to find a large accumulation of magic. The magic search technique is more commonly used by demons, while humans need to have a lot of magical energy to master this technique. Rui then concentrates all his power on using this magic to find large concentrations of magic that may be coming from the capital. After using it, Rui finds a large concentration of magic, thinking that the capital is located in that direction. After Rui discovers the approximate location of the capital, he decides to use the flying leap, a Qigong technique that allows for very high speed. Rui only jumped forward slightly, and he was already able to cover a very large distance in a matter of seconds. After a few of these intense jumps, Rui decided to take a little rest. But when Rui stopped, he noticed a large line in front of him, moving towards the entrance to the capital. Rui was a little worried, as he had never been to the capital before and he didn't know what to expect. Finally, it was Rui's turn, and one knight demanded that Rui show his migration card. The knight realized that Rui did not have any migration card and he demanded that Rui leave the line. Rui was confused because no one had ever told him before that he should have some kind of migration card. Rui began to worry more and more with each passing second, trying to somehow get out of the situation. The knight thought that Rui was going to enroll in a magic academy, but Rui did not fully understand what the knight was telling him. Then the knight told Rui to hurry, since the entrance exam at the academy would begin very soon. Then the knight let Rui into the capital and wished him good luck in his exams. Rui was glad, but at the same time he also did not understand why that knight had let him through. Rui found himself in the capital for the first time in his life, and he was simply amazed at how beautiful everything was there. Rui had heard from adults that there were a lot of people living in the capital, but there were many more of them than he thought. Rui walked up to one of the signs so he could get acquainted with some of the capital's places. To the right of the sign, Rui saw a shopping area where people had been selling various things since the morning. On the left was the very same academy that the knight had told him about. Rui had always dreamed of getting into this academy and studying there, but now he had no time for it. At first, Rui wanted to find out something about the hero's relatives in the bar, because you can always find various useful information there. But since he was still a child, he would have been quickly kicked out of there. Then, Rui thinks to go to the guild, where he can get the opportunity to earn money by completing various orders, and he can also get a migration card with which he can travel to other cities and countries. After some thought, Rui decides to join the guild and become an adventurer. Then an old, angry woman appeared next to Rui, who thought that Rui had gotten lost on his way to the academy. Then the woman grabbed Rui and dragged him by force towards the academy. On the way, the woman told Rui that the academy was made to directly compete with the Empire, which was becoming larger and larger every year. She also told Rui that he would be able to pass the exam at the academy without any problems without presenting any documents. A few minutes later, they reached the very same academy where entrance exams were currently taking place. Rui already understood that he was now in a hopeless situation, and now he had no choice but to go to the exam. On the other hand, Rui was not at all upset that he was able to get here. After this, Rui approached the counter where one of the teachers was, who was accepting new students. In the distance, Rui noticed targets floating in the air where new students were demonstrating their magic skills. One of the teachers told Rui that he needed to show his magical skills, where he could use absolutely any magic. Rui noticed that one girl was having trouble hitting targets with her magical abilities. Ryu felt genuinely sorry for her, while the other applicants laughed at her and said that she was completely incompetent. The next one to show his magical skills was Rui. At first, Rui didn't intend to show his full strength, but he decided to show everyone what he learned from Destarosa and Rio. At this time, the others did not understand who it was and from which village he came here. The teacher gives Rui the command to begin, and Rui creates a huge fireball that should destroy all the targets at once. The others were shocked by what they saw and did not understand how Rui was able to use such powerful magic. After Rui used magic, a large gap appeared on the ground, from which a lot of smoke came out. While the others were scared by such magic, Rui was more than satisfied with his result. Rui decides to ask the teacher if he did it, but the teacher at that moment was lying on the ground unconscious. Rui then decides to ask another teacher if he will be accepted with such skills, to which the teacher fearfully replied that he might be accepted, after which Rui was sent to the next exam. Rui was very confused by the interest with which people around him spoke about him. At that moment, Yuri, one of those who also decided to enter the academy, decided to turn to Rui. Rui didn't understand what a handsome guy like Yuri wanted to know from a country boy like him. Rui greeted Yuri and said that he was very glad to meet them, to which Yuri reciprocated. After meeting, Yuri decides to immediately start communicating with Rui on a first-name basis, since everyone here was absolutely the same. Rui was very surprised by Yuri's expressive smile, thinking to herself that girls were constantly running after Yuri. Yuri drew Rui's attention to how many unusual new students were entering the academy this year. Yuri also told Rui that he thought she would be the best among the new students, although Rui wasn't quite sure who Yuri was talking about. Rui decides to ask Yuri who exactly he is talking about, telling him that he just recently arrived at the academy. At first, Yuri thought for a moment, but a little later he and Rui returned to the topic of conversation. Rui wants to know from Yuri how strong she is, to which Yuri replies that she is the granddaughter of that very hero. Rui was shocked by what he heard, as he did not expect at all that the granddaughter of the hero himself would study here. Then Rui decides to ask Yuri what she looks like, which at first surprised him greatly. Almost immediately, the hero's granddaughter appeared next to Rui and Yuri. As soon as she appeared, she immediately asked Rui if he was the new student that everyone was talking about. When Rui told the hero's granddaughter that it was him, she told him that he looked extremely pathetic. Then Yuri decides to intervene in the matter, telling her that she has no need to insult Rui. After this, Yuri introduces Rui to Charlotte Eudelia, the granddaughter of the legendary hero. Rui immediately recalls moments from his life when he admired the hero and his actions. He also thought that the Demon Queen and the Dragon Queen were not as evil as they were described in the legends, but were very kind creatures. Eudelia interrupted Rui's thoughts and told him that she would not let some boy just take her place at the academy. Then Yuri tells Eudelia that all the exams are already over, and that there is no way to change the situation. Then Eudelia puts her hand into her chest and takes out a white glove. After she takes out the glove, she throws the glove towards Rui and challenges him to a duel. Everyone around was in unprecedented shock that the granddaughter of a legendary hero was challenging a simple village boy. Eudelia tells Rui that if she defeats him, he will refuse to continue entering the academy. If Rui manages to defeat Eudelia, she will become his personal slave. Yuri tried with all his might to dissuade Rui from accepting the challenge, since it would be a completely irrational decision. On the one hand, Rui thought that he didn't need a slave at all, but on the other hand, he had the opportunity to learn something about the hero from Eudelia. Despite Yuri's persuasion, Rui picks up the glove and thus accepts Eudelia's challenge to participate in a duel. Within a few minutes, Rui and Eudelia were ready to start the battle while the rest of the students watched the whole thing. Regus, one of the teachers at the academy, was very worried about the duel, because if there were any casualties among the students, he could suffer severe punishment. Then Yuri calmed the teacher down, telling him that he would take full responsibility because he knew that deep down the teacher also wanted to know what Rui was like. However, Yuri said that the teacher should still judge, which at first did not suit him very well. After this, Regus comes out and dictates the rules of the duel, in which the winner will be the one whose opponent loses consciousness or surrenders on his own. The teacher also added that he can end the fight himself if he believes that one of the opponents is no longer able to continue the fight. Regus also reminded the participants of the duel that killing during battle is prohibited, after which Regus announced the beginning of the duel. Eudelia thought that if Rui surrendered as quickly as possible, the duel would end quickly. After the announcement of the duel, Eudelia took out her sword, with which she was going to defeat Rui. At first, Rui was also going to take out his sword that Rio had left for him, But he remembered her words that Rui should only use his sword when there was a real threat to his life. Then Rui changed his mind about using the dragon sword in the duel and decided to duel with his bare hands, which surprised Eudelia at first. Eudelia was already ready to deal the first blow to Rui, not forgetting to remind herself once again that she was the granddaughter of the legendary hero. After this, Eudelia, with all her anger, ran towards the unarmed Rui. Rui then puts his hand forward and uses the Qigong technique, Golden Cocoon, which completely absorbed all the damage from Eudelia's attack. Eudelia was shocked at how Rui was able to block the blow from her sword, which could easily cut through steel. After parrying the blow, Rui says that he is neither the Demon King, nor the Dragon King, nor the hero, nor even the hero's grandson, but that he is just an ordinary village boy. Eudelia was still shocked by how Rui easily repelled her attack with his bare hands. The Golden Cocoon technique hardened and strengthened only a certain area of the wizard, while the Steel Cocoon technique hardened the wizard's entire body, but at the same time his defense was less durable than that of the Golden Cocoon. Also, the Golden Cocoon did not in any way hinder the free movement of the protected limb, which made it very effective. Eudelia tried to inflict some damage on Rui again, but he was able to easily repel this attack as well. Eudelia didn't understand how Rui could so easily fight off her attacks, since she was a master of swordsmanship. She then decides to change her strategy and use many petal blades instead of a sword, which flew towards Rui. But despite the speed and number of these blades, Rui was able to dodge each blade without any difficulty. Eudelia then decides to use a countless number of these blades to make sure they hit Rui and incapacitate him. The teacher thought that this was too much and he decided to interrupt the duel, but Yuri decided to stop the teacher. Yuri drew the teacher's attention to how confidently and calmly Rui was acting, which could mean that he could handle it with ease. Rui was surprised by how many petals were flying towards him, and he felt that he needed to use very strong magic here. Then Rui decides not to run away from the petals, but on the contrary to run towards these petals. Rui then makes a high jump and uses a wide flame magic move that burns all the petals flying towards him. Eudelia was in unimaginable shock at how Rui could so easily repel both sword and magic attacks. Then Eudelia was overtaken by memories from her childhood, when she trained long and hard with her father. Her father told her about the hero mark that no one could obtain, and he told her that if she trained long and hard, sooner or later she would obtain such a mark, which in turn motivated her greatly. After this, a crowd of adults appeared next to her, who were touching her in every possible way and said that she would definitely become a hero like her grandfather. Eudelia promised that she would train all the time, and that when she grew up, she would become a real hero who would protect peaceful people from various threats. Having collected her thoughts, Eudelia was once again about to strike Rui with another blow. Just before the blow, Eudelia was determined not to let Rui take her place at the academy. At the moment of impact, Rui once again uses the Golden Cocoon Qigong technique to once again reflect the entire attack. Then Rui remembered those very moments from his life when Elena mocked him in every possible way, believing that he had absolutely no talent in mastering magic. At that moment, Rui thought that Eudelia had also had a very hard time before, and that she had dedicated all her time to training to become one of the best. Then Rui decides to use another technique of Qigong Golden Sword Grasp, with which he not only stops another attack of Eudelia, but also grabs the sword in his palm. Eudelia was very scared by how Rui was able to grab her weapon so easily with his bare hands. After grabbing the sword, Rui prepared to use the next technique, Qigong Meteor Fist, which increased the power of his fist attacks several times. Eudelia believed that these were her last seconds of life, and that she was not able to defeat Rui. However, Rui's fist manages to stop his fist a couple of inches from Eudelia's face, leaving her unharmed. Rui decided to convince Eudelia that the duel had ended in his favor and that they no longer needed to continue the battle. Then Eudelia became very scared and started crying, not understanding how Rui was able to defeat her so easily. Rui was very frightened by the state Eudelia was in now. Then Rui noticed that no one was on them now, and then he decides to create a small dark space in which no one would be able to notice both of them. Then a large black cube appeared in front of the rest of those present, through which Rui and Eudelia could not be seen. After this, Rui decides to check on Eudelia's condition and try to calm her down. A little later, Eudelia noticed that everything around her had disappeared, and that she and Rui found themselves in a dark room completely alone. Rui explained to Eudelia that he had created a special cube that blocked out all outside light and sounds so that no one would see Eudelia like this. After this, Rui immediately began to dry Eudelia, who was very scared. Eudalia was both frightened and surprised by such concern for her, which made her very embarrassed. Eudalia decided to ask Rui why he was doing all this, despite how rudely she spoke to him. Rui just said that if someone got into some kind of trouble, he just goes and helps the person. Hearing this, Eudalia remembered how when she was little, she also dreamed of helping people in trouble. Eudalia thought about how she had never understood such a simple truth before. Afterwards, she apologizes to Rui for her behavior and accepts her defeat. She also admitted that Rui was much stronger than her, not only in combat and magic but also in his soul. Rui also said that Eudalia also showed her fighting skills well, and that he was especially surprised by her latest magic. Rui was about to take off the black cube, but Eudalia said that friends address each other as you, and that they are now friends. Rui didn't object to this, and they shook hands as the black cube began to crumble. The audience finally saw Rui and Eudalia finally get out of the big cube. After this, Eudalia told all the spectators that she was giving up and that she fully accepted Rui's victory. Everyone was shocked by such a statement from the granddaughter of the legendary hero, and Eudalia said that Rui should study at the academy instead of her. Teacher Regas merely reminded Eudalia of the promise she had to fulfill if she lost. Rui remembered Eudalia's promise to become his slave, but he said that he did not need a slave at all. Eudalia said that she would not accept the fact that Rui refused to comply with all the conditions, and that she was ready to become his slave. Then Eudalia began to insist that if she lost, she was obliged to become Rui's personal slave. After that, she grabbed Rui's hand and created a slave mark on her hand, with which Eudalia must now do whatever Rui wants from her. Eudalia was not upset, but on the contrary, she was ready to follow all of Rui's instructions. Rui was only embarrassed once again by the fact that the granddaughter of the legendary hero had become his personal slave. After the duel, Rui and Eudalia met Yuri at the academy, who wanted to ask them about the results of their exams. Yuri said that he could not have imagined before that someone from the hero's family would become someone's slave, which greatly confused and angered Eudalia. Yuri also wanted to find out from them who they are now for each other. Eudalia only said that she didn't tell Rui because she believed that if she had told him earlier that she wanted to be friends with him, he would have tried to stay away from her. Rui didn't understand anything, so Yuri decided to introduce himself to Rui as Yuri von Exodoria, who was the current prince of Escadora. Rui was shocked by what he heard, as he could not even imagine that he would personally know anyone from the royal family. Then Rui decides to address Yuri as Sir, to which Yuri himself said that friends should not call each other Sir. After this, Yuri asked Rui if he had any places to stay overnight, since it was clear from his appearance that he was not from the capital. Rui said that he hadn't thought about it at all, because he expected to solve such issues as they arose. Yuri said that he would try to somehow resolve the issue of Rui's place of residence. Yuri said that Rui could spend the night with him and that he would be well taken care of there, and so Rui would not have to worry about payment. Then Eudalia considered Yuri's generosity too suspicious, assuming that he had some reasons for it. Yuri said that there is currently a major population shortage in the capital, and if the academy's rating increases thanks to students like Rui, then students from other countries will head to the capital. Yuri also added that if Rui studies at the academy, then Yuri will support Rui in everything. Rui thought that if Yuri would help him, it would be much easier for him to get used to it, and then it would be easier for him to find the necessary information about the hero. And after such thoughts, he decides to become a student at the academy. That night, Rui spent the night in Yuri's room, and the next day he was going to look for information about the hero. As soon as Rui went outside, he saw Eudalia at the entrance, who had been waiting for him to come out all morning. Rui didn't expect to see Eudalia, and she said that she just wanted to come to Rui, so that Eudalia wouldn't think that something was wrong. He told her that he was very glad to see her, after which her resentment turned to joy. After this, Eudalia invites Rui to take a walk with her, while she shows him different places. Then Rui and Eudalia walked around the capital all day, visiting various places. During the walk, Rui thought that he was now in great debt to Eudalia, and that if he now wanted to free Destarossa and Rio, he would devalue everything that the legendary hero had done for this world. Then Rui remembered his last night with Destarossa and Rio, when they all discussed together that the hero might still be alive now. Destarossa said that since the hero was able to create a place where no one ages, like the infinite, then it was entirely possible that he could have found a way to become virtually immortal. Then Rui said that since he locked Destarossa and Rio here, he was bad, and when he found the hero, he would finish him off. Then Rio said that they could not kill the hero, since he was too strong for anyone to defeat him. Destarosa figured that the hero couldn't just attack and trap her and Rio here, and he must have some compelling reason for doing so. These words did not convince Rui in any way, and he still wanted to finish off the hero, since he could not simply forgive him for the fact that they were here. Eudelia noticed that something was wrong with Rui, to which he replied that he was fine. Then Rui came to his senses and he decided to find out something from Eudelia about the legendary hero, and she thought that Rui was one of her grandfather's next fans. Eudelia said that she doesn't know much about her grandfather, since 300 years have passed since he disappeared. Then, Eudelia tells Rui that despite this, she has several family items, among which were also her grandfather's things, which greatly interested Rui. One such item was the sword Frau Xerasos, which was used by Eudelia in her duel with Rui, and which was passed down in the hero's family from generation to generation. Rui started looking at the sword and couldn't take his eyes off it, because while he was looking at the sword, for some reason, his soul just felt good. When Eudelia handed the sword to Rui, the sword began to emit unusual energy, and Rui thought that the sword was filling Rui with unusual magical power. After a few seconds, Rui returned the sword back to Eudelia, after which he felt some unusual sensation from the sword. It was getting on for the night, and Rui told Eudelia that it was too late to go out and that they both had to go home. At first, Rui wanted to walk Eudelia home, but she invited him to spend the night with her. Finding themselves alone with each other, Rui thanks Eudelia for such a wonderful day in order to somehow dilute the suddenly appeared situation. Eudelia supported Rui and said that she would like to spend the day together sometime. At the same time, Eudelia thought that she had a unique opportunity to make Rui her own. Eudelia remembered how many guys from her circle began to confess their feelings to her when they found out that she was the granddaughter of a legendary hero. Despite their mutual interest in the boys, Eudelia did not date these boys, as they were much weaker than her. During all this time, Rui was the only one who was finally able to surpass her. Unexpectedly for Rui, Eudelia reminded him that she was his slave. Then Eudelia said that she could do for him whatever he wanted without any exceptions. After this, Eudelia took Rui's hand and placed it on her chest. Rui thought back to that very last night when Destarosa had told him that even though he loved them, he should not burden his fate. Destarosa told Rui that she and Rio loved him very much, but they would both be very happy if he found someone he would love for the rest of his life. Rio said that among all the races, only humans can have one partner, while male dragons can have several females at once. Destarosa said that male demons are not limited to one individual either, and aristocratic demons can have several dozen females at once. Rui remembered Destarosa's words that if he found a person with whom he wanted to connect his life, then he had to act. Rio told Destarosa that she was the type to be jealous all the time, after which Rio and Destarosa had another small fight. At first, Rui thought that he started communicating with Eudelia only to find out something about the hero from her. However, after the duel and their walk together, she attracted him more and more. Then Rui realized that Eudelia had become the very person he wanted to protect from danger and with whom he would live his whole life. After such thoughts, Rui decided to act, and he immediately kissed Eudelia. After a long kiss, Rui pushed Eudelia onto the bed and began to take off her shirt. Rui decides not to stop at the shirt and decides to take off her underwear. At one point, Eudelia felt that they were rushing things too much and wanted to stop. Rui reassured Eudelia and promised her that he would be as gentle as possible with her tonight, which calmed her down a little. After this, Rui began to undress, and Eudelia was afraid that he simply would not fit inside her. But Rui was no longer listening to Eudelia, and he penetrated her, which is why Eudelia experienced such unusual sensations for the first time. The next day, Rui and Eudelia were heading to the academy, and on the way, Eudelia kept complaining about the unbearable pain. Rui suggested that she use her regeneration magic, to which Eudelia only pushed Rui and told him to think carefully about his behavior. Then Eudelia asked Rui to become her boyfriend and take on all the responsibility. Ultimately, Rui decided to take responsibility and agree to Elena's proposal, despite his doubts and fear of change. Of course, the girl was completely surprised by this sudden turn of events, and it made her heart beat faster than she ever imagined. A stranger approached the young couple and asked them a question, wondering if they were by any chance applicants. With obvious confidence, the guy expressed the opinion that they were an extremely frail and defenseless couple, which prompted them to think about their vulnerability in this situation. They also showed interest and asked if the girl was the granddaughter of some hero or famous person. When the stranger tried to come closer to the girl, she resolutely pushed him away and warned that if he came closer again, she would take extreme measures to protect herself, including even possible violence. Michael, that was the guy's name, told her with a pleading voice to refrain from such threats and hateful words. He tried to convince her of his friendliness and intention not to pose a threat. Rui suddenly felt the need to apologize to them, although there was no clear reason for such an action. Elena felt pleasantly embarrassed to hear the boy openly express his affection for her in the presence of others, and her heart beat faster from such unexpected sincerity. Michael didn't like the situation and decided to use his magical abilities to overcome the guy and show his strength. The protagonist felt bewildered about Michael's motives for using magic in the city center and tried to figure out what goals might be behind this inexplicable action. Of course, he couldn't just leave it unattended and decided to intervene to stop the stranger and prevent the possible consequences of his magical actions. He decided to use the stone machine gun in an attempt to stop Michael and his magical actions. This decisive action produced results. Michael flew back several meters and lost his balance, unable to stay on his feet after the forceful impact of the stone machine gun. His comrades began to turn to him worriedly and tried to calm Michael down, showing deep regret and remorse towards Rui and Elena for what happened, trying to restore peace and make everything okay. The girls smiled and agreed to the guy's offer to go further, realizing that this episode with Michael was behind them and they could continue their adventure. Since time was not on their side, they had to move more quickly and hurry so as not to be late somewhere further along their route. There were so many people gathered around the building that they felt the atmosphere filled with bustle and liveliness, and they had to pass through the crowd to reach their goal. Elena asked the guy not to stand out from the crowd, warning that his enemies might start to mock him since they were surrounded by rivals. When the protagonist learned that the results might be posted there, his determination did not allow him to stop, and he headed to the place despite the girl's recommendation. He noticed that there were classes labeled A through E. The girl was sure that they were probably in Class A. As it turned out, they were indeed found in Class Z, but none of them had previously known about the existence of such a class, which added mystery and unpredictability to the situation. Yuri greeted the couple warmly, creating a friendly and welcoming atmosphere in this unexpected situation. Along with Yuri was a mysterious stranger in a helmet reminiscent of knights' helmets, which gave this meeting a mysterious and fantastical tone. As it turned out, this mysterious stranger in a helmet was Yuri's companion, and his presence added even more mystery and interest to this meeting. After completing the welcoming gesture, they exchanged short introductions and discussed their expectations for the quest in this new and unknown classroom, beginning their adventure with great excitement. The guy introduced himself as Jason and explained that his main role was to protect Yuri, which gave them an understanding of the seriousness of this mission and the need for cooperation. Yuri began to explain that he wears a helmet to hide his true identity, and he hoped that he and the protagonist could maintain a good relationship despite this hiding of his face. Her mood did not improve, and she continued to remain in the angry mood caused by the previous incident with Michael. Yuri only wanted to see the girl, which is why he did not share information about the class with her, trying to maintain the intrigue and make the meeting more mysterious. It turned out that this class is new from this school year. Previously, students were assigned based on their academic performance. But this year, they decided to gather students with special abilities in Class Z, which caused additional interest and questions from Rui and Elena. It can be said that this is a class where talented and unique individuals have gathered, creating an atmosphere of creativity and non-standard approaches to learning. If they had been leveled up, they would have probably been placed in Class A, but their performance was so outstanding that they were placed in Class Z, which was reserved for students with unique abilities. Based on the management's decision, they were sent to Class Z, taking into account their abilities and potential. The girl could not understand whether Yuri was following them, because it all looked rather suspicious and mysterious, which caused her questions and misunderstandings. For the girl, it didn't really matter whether Yuri was watching them or not, because she felt confident and calm when she was next to the guy. Her running seemed too hot, and the guy politely asked her to slow down so they could move together and enjoy the moment. Jason remained confused as to why they needed to follow the couple, which left him curious and questioning the purpose of this mission. It turned out that this class was populated by absolute mischief makers, and even Yuri found it difficult to keep them under control and keep an eye on them. Jason believed that Rui had the necessary skills and determination to handle this challenge and successfully resolve the situation in Class Z. If Yuri has so much hope for Rui, it means that he has invested a lot of hope and trust in the guy, and now Rui must live up to those expectations. His interest knew no bounds, and he couldn't wait to find out what Class Z was, ultimately expecting to unravel the mystery of this mysterious place. The boy and girl quickly changed their clothes and decided to go explore the class to learn more about its students and the characteristics of this unusual group. From the very beginning, they did not notice anything that seemed strange or unusual about this class. Rui aimed to find true friends among the students in this class and build warm relationships, and he hoped that this would be possible despite their uniqueness and oddities. Recognizing the hero, they began to wonder if he was the one who had won the duel during the exam, causing Rui to be slightly surprised and happy that his achievements were known. After the positive answer, their reaction seemed strange, as if they were ready to find out additional details from the main character and were interested in his story in their own way. Elena has shown a willingness to draw her sword and engage in combat if the situation becomes more aggressive, expressing her willingness to defend herself and the protagonist. However, to everyone's surprise, the boy simply shook Roy's hand and expressed his appreciation, saying that the duel was very impressive and deserved praise. The boy began to express admiration and praise towards Rui, as if worshipping him and saying what a great and skilled duelist he was. Jack revealed his skills in explosive magic, causing surprise and interest among those present, and his talents made him quite a popular figure in Class Z. Behind Jack stood a tall guy named Michael, and next to him was Alex. The introduction of everyone in the class became more informative and welcoming. Jack hoped that Rui would be able to become friends with them and find common ground, which was an important aspect for him and for the entire Class Z. Having received such a warm greeting from the students in the class, Rui felt that his fears and worries were in vain, and he was ready for new acquaintances and adventures in this unusual class. The girls also showed support and greeted the boys with a smile, starting to get to know them and talk to them, which created a friendly atmosphere in the class. Rui was attracted by one of the students and began a conversation with interest to learn more about him and get to know him better, feeling that this class could bring him many interesting acquaintances and impressions. It turned out that this student was not in a friendly mood, but on the contrary, showed aggressive behavior and anger, which left Rui a little dumbfounded and unsure of his actions. The protagonists felt confused, not understanding what could have gone wrong and assuming that they might have made some mistake or bad impression that caused this student's aggression. Since Rui was from a village and might not know about some of the city's customs or practices, which could explain his negative attitude and dissatisfaction. This was because the capital was forbidden from keeping beastmen as slaves, but in other major cities the practice continued, causing discontent among many beastmen and creating conflict between them and ordinary people. The protagonist was curious about whether he would ever be able to become friends with this student, despite the initial tension and conflict, and he hoped for an improvement in the relationship. When the girl tried to tell the guy something, his attention was focused on one of the girls in the class, which caused some misunderstanding and irritation in the girl. He couldn't help but notice that she was amazingly beautiful, as if she had come straight out of a painting, and this caught his attention and aroused his interest. Rui greeted the girl with a slight stutter, trying to pull himself together and be polite to her. However, he only received a cold shoulder from the girl, which left him feeling a little hurt and disappointed. Elena could not stand such behavior and was shocked by how the girl dared to ignore the guy, and this caused her indignation and bewilderment. She acted pompously and stated that there was simply nothing to talk about with him, which caused additional irritation and bewilderment on the part of Elena and Rui. Elena was confused and felt disappointed by such an unpleasant answer, which completely contradicted their hopes for a friendly interaction with the students in the class. Her nerves were already giving out, and she felt very irritated, ready to explode and tear the girl to pieces on the spot because of her rude and unpleasant behavior. Yuri noticed that the guy had apparently already established relationships with everyone, and also added that the teacher was already heading towards them, and they needed to quickly take their seats. Yuri demonstratively introduced himself again and greeted the guy, showing his friendliness and willingness to communicate, despite the previous troubles. From the look on the protagonist's face, it was clear that he felt satisfaction from the new class, since from this moment his life at the academy begins, and he is ready for new challenges and adventures. One day, a teacher was explaining something to the children with great diligence, trying to convey important information and knowledge to them. The teacher explained that in this way, water magic uses moisture from the atmosphere to achieve its goals, sharing knowledge of magical processes with the students. Rui disagreed with the teacher and said that water magic was probably also capable of controlling underground waters and water sources, expressing his own vision and understanding of magical processes. It had been 2 weeks since they entered the academy, and the main characters were actively studying magic and adapting to the new learning environment. Everyone present was amazed at how clearly and understandably the guy explained the material, and his ability to convey knowledge caused admiration among students and teachers. When they returned from practice, they noticed that all the chairs were scattered around the classroom, which caused surprise and bewilderment among those present. It was very cruel, and the children could not understand who had made such a mess and thrown chairs around the classroom, causing indignation and irritation. One of the guys wanted to ask some questions and find out what happened to understand the situation better. He decided to find the one who created this mess, confident that he left traces or evidence that will help solve this mystery. Oscar began using magical analysis to identify magical traces or information that could lead him to discover the villain who was causing chaos in the classroom. This is exactly what Rui expected from Oscar, relying on his magical skills to solve the mystery and find the culprit. Oscar announced that he had these magical skills thanks to the help of the boy, which aroused the interest and surprise of the others. Thus, he was able to develop his analysis skills and the ability to analyze more than just one table, thanks to the training and lessons that the guy gave after school. Oscar noticed hair and shoe marks from a classmate, which could be the key to revealing who created the mess in the classroom. Oscar was truly impossible to fool, and his unique skills in magical analysis allowed him to spot details that went unnoticed by others. As it turned out, the boy was banished from the village for abusing magic, which explained his strange and hostile behavior. He was glad to have the opportunity to use magic and realized that he could now be useful and contribute to solving the mystery of the disorder in the classroom. The boy provided information about who broke into the classroom and caused the disturbance, sharing his knowledge and observations to help solve the incident. Oscar, not wanting to get involved in conflicts and skirmishes, decided to stay away and not join the class that might be going to sort out the situation. Oscar could rely on his friend and assured him that he could cope without his help, expressing his trust and confidence in his abilities. At this time, Jack, Alex, and Michael were nearby, ready to support their friends and help if needed. They all had one common goal: to catch the one who broke the rules and created chaos in the classroom in order to restore order and calm to the academy. Jack asked the protagonist if it was time to begin, expressing his willingness to intervene and help investigate the incident. Kickstarting the door, the boys burst into the classroom, ready to begin an investigation and find the rule breaker. The boys were confident that they could win this battle and solve the mystery of the classroom incident by trusting in their skills and their own loyalty. It appears that all suspects are planning to pretend innocence and hide their involvement in the incident. A stranger approached the guys, and the main character immediately felt that he had seen him somewhere before, like he was from the aristocracy or another upper class. The protagonist apologized for bursting into the classroom so suddenly and explained that one of the bullies in their class had disrupted the lesson, and now they were trying to find the culprit and restore order. The stranger asked if it was too early to suspect them of this, expressing doubt about their assumptions about who could have disrupted the lesson. The stranger also added that there are many students from disadvantaged families in their class, and this can complicate finding the culprit and understanding the situation. After these words, Jack became furious and was ready to tear the stranger to pieces, feeling anger and defending the honor of his class and friends. Naturally, Rui realized that the stranger simply wanted to anger them, and he began to think of a strategy to remain calm and investigate the incident intelligently and effectively. He asked Jack to trust him and rely on his decisions so that the investigation would go more smoothly and efficiently. The guy began to take something unknown out of his pocket, arousing interest and anticipation among everyone present. The main characters carefully examined the hair that Oscar found for them in the classroom and began to analyze it, hoping to find some clues or traces of the culprit. The stranger inquired how Oscar was able to know who the hair belonged to, showing curiosity about the methods Oscar used his magical powers to determine the owner of the hair. The guy started to explain that they had done a genetic analysis and compared the data with known samples to determine the owner of the hair. Then he decided to explain it briefly so that the others would understand the analysis process. He announced that he had used his ability called time reversal to analyze the genetic information and identify the owner of the hair. The stranger was clearly surprised and did not expect such an unusual outcome of events, because the ability to reverse time was extremely rare and powerful. As it turned out, the main characters used magic that could turn back time, and the hair returned to its owner's head, surprising everyone present with its unusual magical power. In other words, it turned out that this hair belonged to a stranger, and he was involved in the incident with the scattered chairs in the classroom. The stranger could not understand how this was possible because not even all high-class magicians could use time magic, and this caused him surprise and bewilderment. The stranger pointed his wand at the boy, perhaps preparing to use his magical powers in response to their discovery of his crime. The stranger admitted that he was going to carry out a purge and remove the protagonist from the class, possibly implying some kind of measures to expel or punish him. He warned everyone present that they should also prepare for punishment or consequences of a purge that would encompass the entire classroom atmosphere. The protagonist noted that directing magic wands without sufficient grounds is contrary not only to the rules of the school, but also to the law of magic in general. The protagonist realized that in this situation it was more of a self-defense, and now he had no need to hold back. It was time for retribution and protection of his interests. After this, classmates began to jointly develop a strategy of action to prevent possible negative consequences and protect themselves and their class. The man ordered everyone to shoot, calling on them to take active action in this situation. The protagonist noticed that people were gathering near the classroom, and he decided that they needed to avoid direct blows and getting hit by them. Michael made the decision to take responsibility and act on his own in this situation. Michael decided to use a technique known as the wall to protect himself and his comrades from attacks. Jack expressed his confession to Michael and informed him that he would take further action in preparation for dealing with the situation. Jack decided to use his powerful technique called the bomb to deal with the stranger and his threats. All the wands exploded in their owners' hands, causing chaos and panic in the classroom. This unexpected explosion was certainly not part of their plan, and they expected an easier victory. Now the students were absolutely sure that victory was not in their plans. The students began to discuss precautions and rules for using magic to avoid such situations. Among those present was a man who was ready to deal a powerful blow to Alex. His determination and aggression were visible in his eyes. He was not going to let his opponent win so easily, and instead of allowing the blow to land, he decisively activated the enhancement in his legs. Because of this unexpected reaction, the guy was unable to hit him at all. His blow was completely useless. All subsequent attempts to harm this guy also ended in failure. His incredible agility and reaction made him untouchable for his opponents. He mocked them and remarked that they were too slow, and with such ease that one could even yawn without fear. They had still been unable to unravel his whereabouts, and he remained an inaccessible mystery to them. It was at this time that Alex suddenly appeared and delivered his decisive blow, which proved irresistible. And in addition, it seems he overdid it and completely knocked out his opponents. And apparently, he not only struck, but also overestimated his strength, so that the opponents were completely knocked out of action. Alex grabbed him by the throat and asked who could now be considered bad in this situation. Under Alex's influence, he began to beg for mercy and guaranteed his readiness to fulfill any request. However, the condition was that he would have to obey not only the guy, but also everyone else, following their orders. The protagonist is ready to deliver the decisive blow in this epic battle. The blow was so devastating that the man turned and fell to the ground, groaning in pain, while his opponents were left amazed by the hero's power. The blow was so powerful that he simply pierced the wall with his body, leaving a huge hole in it and causing shock among all witnesses. This spectacle looked incredibly impressive and epic, forcing everyone around to applaud the hero. The hero's friends were proud to have been part of this incredible victory and to have witnessed his valor. They then raised their hands towards each other to symbolize and strengthen their friendship and unity. However, when Yuri learned of the boys' feat, he was overcome with rage, and he clearly did not approve of their actions, not being proud of them. Jack was busy cleaning, and this was not his first attempt at this, and he admitted to himself that he himself was to blame for the fact that things had reached this point. Yuri tormented himself with self-accusations for the fact that he simply couldn't keep track of them. Their promise to never allow such situations to happen again calmed them down, and they felt the obsession lift from their souls. The protagonist then approached Yuri and sincerely apologized, realizing that he probably suffered because of their actions. He honestly admitted that from the very beginning, when he decided to take this step, he expected that such situations would happen quite often. Yuri's voice was very tired, as if an echo of a long and restless day. Since he was still dealing with the investigation into their actions, he was unable to get a good night's sleep. Rui felt incredibly uneasy and uncomfortable when he realized that his actions had led to this situation, and now his relationship with his friend had become strained and uncomfortable. At this time, the protagonist noticed that everyone around him continued to train, and his own worries seemed small compared to their determination and diligence. And inspired by their determination, he also decided to go for a walk to relax a little and take his mind off the unpleasant situation. As he was leaving the classroom, the protagonist noticed a stranger approach him with a smile on his face and greet him warmly. This unexpected gesture of goodwill bathed him in a magical light, dispelling the tension that had been dragging behind him since the unpleasant situation. The stranger, showing interest, asked if the main character was that same Rui. Having apologized to the guy for his sudden appearance, the protagonist tried to explain that his new mood and desire to talk were the result of recent events. As it turned out, the guy's name was Madison and he was in Class 2A, which added a new dimension to their meeting. The protagonist warmly shook the stranger's hand, expressing his respect for him and showing his readiness for friendly communication. Madison was just curious about what Rui looked like, since there were rumors about him and he wanted to see the guy in person. And oddly enough, these rumors turned out to be connected with yesterday's incident that everyone was talking about. Madison suddenly began to approach Rui, as if they had found a common language, and their conversation became more frank and friendly. Madison felt like he was ready to tell Roy something important and personal. With a look full of trust, he made it clear that he had a story he wanted to share with him, and Roy was ready to listen to him. Rui listened carefully to Madison and realized that even he, being strong, realized that in this world there would always be people even more powerful and terrible than himself. At this time, the main character was worried about his charisma and ability to impress others. Rui sincerely and heartily thanked Madison for his honesty and warning about the powerful and scary people in this world. He felt that his new friend truly cared about his well-being and safety. However, inside himself, he was well aware that there were at least two people whose power and influence surpassed his. Madison decided that he had probably worried for nothing then, since meeting such people was unlikely, and he preferred to focus on what was now. He then began to say goodbye and announced that it was time for him to go, leaving Rui with the thought that their meeting had been unexpected and interesting. The protagonist noticed that Madison was indeed a very mysterious person, and his short meeting left a mystery in his soul. And suddenly, as if in a hurry, Madison began to say goodbye and leave the meeting place, leaving Roy with a feeling of unexplained mysteries and secrets. In his gaze, Rui could see many secrets and mysteries that he might yet have to uncover. Arriving home, Rui immediately collapsed on his bed and realized that he was extremely tired after a hard day. Rui was so physically and emotionally exhausted that it was clearly a result of their long and tiring work in rebuilding the classroom that had been damaged. He proudly realized that he had worked hard despite the difficulties and was able to rebuild the class on his own, which filled his day with a sense of satisfaction and achievement. Rui woke up and looked around in confusion, having difficulty deciding whether it was already morning or still twilight. With a deep sense of confusion and bewilderment, Rui realized that he was surrounded by an unknown space and was far from his familiar surroundings, which left him with a mixture of worry and surprise. However, he was sure that even if this place seemed endless and incomprehensible, his little sister and Rio would always come to his aid and support him. Suddenly, he realized that he felt nothing, and doubts that this place could be an endless hell overwhelmed him. The girl behind him suddenly walked up to Rui and gently asked him to remain calm, as if sensing his anxiety and helplessness. She confirmed his words that this was indeed the same endless hell in which they found themselves. Inviting Rui to sit at the table, she suggested to him that they needed to talk and try to figure out this strange situation they found themselves in. The guy felt a slight awkward tension and indecision as he sat at the table in this mysterious setting. Before drinking the tea that was offered to him, he thought a little whether it was worth doing, because the situation remained unclear and mysterious. Despite his initial hesitation, Rui was pleasantly surprised to find the tea had a refined taste and a warmth that enveloped him after his first sip. With a cup of tea in his hands, he couldn't help but ask about her identity and how they related to this strange situation. As it turned out, her name was Chris, and she was appointed to rule this endless hell, which added mystery and intrigue to their meeting. After these words, the main character immediately stood up, ready to defend himself, feeling an unexpected surge of tension and danger. However, she again asked him to calm down and assured him that she was not an enemy and that her intentions were good. Mixed feelings of uncertainty and uneasiness remained in his heart, and he felt that he needed a clearer explanation of his role and purpose in this strange reality. It turned out that the reason was quite simple. The main character accidentally removed the seal from the endless hell. This happened because he received an item from the hero in the real world, which caused the seal that protected the endless hell to be removed. It goes without saying that the guy was shocked by what he heard, because he had just found out that he had accidentally released an endless hell. And this was a shock to him. Thinking back to the moment when he had held Charlotte's sword and felt some kind of power from it, it became clear to him that it was at that moment that the seal was removed, revealing an endless hell. He learned that if he collected all of the hero's items, the seal on the endless hell would be completely removed, and he would be able to return to the real world. Rui thought that a joint effort with Charlotte might be more effective and safer than a solo search for an unknown hero whose fate he knew nothing about. He was confused, wondering why the girl who seemed to rule this place was willing to reveal to him information on how to remove the seal from the endless hell. Chris admitted that the goal of endless hell had already been achieved, and now she herself found it strange that this hell still existed, and she decided to help Rui to fix the situation. The guy was completely confused and could not understand what exactly the girl was talking about, since the information about the purpose of endless hell was unexpected for him. Rui felt even more confused and unsure of what was going on after learning that the girl had no right to reveal the information about the purpose of the endless hell. And he began to realize that the whole situation was actually much more complicated and mysterious than it initially seemed. Sincerely asking him for forgiveness, the girl tried to explain that she was not allowed to reveal details related to the purpose of endless hell, and that she was ready to help him find answers together. The girl explained that the main character is not here physically, and that is why he will be able to return to the real world when he collects all the hero's items and removes the seal. It turned out that he was summoned to this world so that he could gain the experience and skills needed to complete the task of collecting the hero's items and removing the seal from the endless hell. Thus, Rui began to realize that his role in this world had become clearer, and he was willing to accept the challenge of helping Chris achieve this goal, since he had the opportunity to gain the skills and experience that would be needed to complete this important task. Concentrating, Rui tried to think about swords, and to his surprise, he saw swords appear in front of him, ready for use. It was an indescribable feeling of power and control over the world around him. Chris, not wanting to waste time, decisively announced that they were starting training, and Rui was ready to begin learning and using his new swords. Under the influence of some unknown force, he instantly dodged the attack without any apparent explanation, causing surprise and admiration in both himself and Chris, who realized that Rui had unique abilities. He was amazed by this event, as his head literally almost flew off from the amazing dodge of the blow. At the very last stage of training, she warned him that if he died in this world, he would never wake up in reality again, and this gave the whole situation seriousness and importance. Chris reminded him that everything they had just been through was just training, and that Rui still had an exam ahead of him that would test his abilities and readiness. Rui couldn't help but notice that the girl, despite her gender, was extremely strong and masterfully wielded a sword, which earned him respect and admiration. Chris noticed that the protagonist didn't seem to have been trained to use a sword, and decided that they had a lot of work to do to overcome this shortcoming and achieve success. He may not have had the experience, but the boy already had some techniques that he had been taught and was ready to use them in battle. He used the shine technique to create a momentary flash of light, blinding his opponent and giving him an advantage in battle. However, from the girl's expression, it was impossible to determine that she was alarmed by this reception, and she remained calm and determined. Rui realized that he had to use his intelligence and techniques to compensate for the speed gap and be more effective in combat. Under the pressure of the fight and stress, his nerves gave out and he decided to use his super boost to increase his abilities and chances of winning. Using his super boost, he delivered a powerful blow, putting all his strength into it, in an attempt to turn the tide of the fight in his favor. Rui's strength and determination impressed even Chris, and the battle became much more intense and interesting as both fighters fought for the upper hand. With the use of his magical body, the protagonist gained additional strength and agility, making his attacks more powerful and threatening, and he continued to fight Chris, who also fought back. With this powerful blow, Rui was able to establish his superiority in the battle and highlight his unique abilities. Chris, despite her strength, was forced to yield to the boy's might. Realizing that further fighting was pointless, the girl asked to stop and realized that Rui's strength was that he was not limited to a certain form and was able to adapt to the situation. Chris, despite her defeat, quickly reacted and used her shield to reflect the boy's attack and protect herself from the effects of the powerful blow. The protagonist continued to demonstrate his unique ability to adapt and magical power, which allowed him to overcome obstacles and succeed in battle. Chris recognized his incredible skills and decided that she should learn more about this mysterious guy. Gathering the last of his strength and determination, Rui prepared for the final blow, knowing that it would decide the outcome of the battle. For some unknown reason, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head and began to faint, which caused alarm and confusion in both him and Chris. There were only a few moments ahead, and he could have defeated the girl, but sudden frostbite stopped him on the way to victory, and he was left in bewilderment and pain in the head. Chris, however, had no intention of killing him, and his little body did its job to protect him at the moment when he was in trouble. Sakura, symbolizing beauty and renewal, could be a sign of hope and a bright future for a guy who has gone through many difficulties and trials. Chris understood that she was relying on the protagonist because the fate of the world was in his hands, and she believed that he would be able to cope with the difficult task that lay before them. When the boy woke up, he felt that his whole body was in severe pain, probably from the effects of intense training and fighting in an endless hell. Rui noticed that there were no wounds on his body, and he began to realize that perhaps he had never physically been in the endless hell, and it was all happening in another dimension or state. The Dimension Slice was explained as an advanced technology that mixed magic and qigong. When this technology was combined with the Dimension Slice, a true Dimension Slice was created that could explain everything that happened in the endless hell. With an opponent equal to him in strength, Rui realized that even if he had no weapon, he could use magic to fill in the gaps in his technique and swordsmanship, making him more powerful in combat. Rui had doubts that the girl could be better than him in combat or swordsmanship, and this could cause some self-doubt. By focusing on training with the ball, he realized that this was the way to improve his technique and skills, and he was willing to learn and develop to become better. The inner fire and determination burned within him, and he was ready for the hard work. The next day, when the boy came to school, he was immediately welcomed and felt like part of the community, preparing for new challenges and adventures. They all had nothing special to do during the breaks, and they decided to spend this time in friendly conversation, discussing past events and future plans. Rui looked into the distance, his gaze directed toward the endless expanses, and suddenly his attention was drawn to the presence of someone who had already arrived. The same bodyguard of Yuri, whose job it was to ensure the safety of his boss, felt surprised when the young man expressed his need for his help. With bitter sincerity in his voice, he told how he was once again kicked out of the place where he had found temporary refuge. Striving for self-improvement, the protagonist expressed a desire for that same bodyguard to teach him the art of swordsmanship. To improve the efficiency of his training, he decided to ask Charlotte for help. In this chaotic duel, where Charlotte attacked with a sword and the guy tried to defend himself, the protagonist felt an urgent need to learn both attack and defense in order to become a true master of the sword. With pride and determination in his eyes, the boy admitted that he would pass on the hereditary technique known as the King's Protection Sword. Thus began an exchange of knowledge and skills, with the protagonist becoming Charlotte's teacher in the art of magic, while she became his mentor in swordsmanship. This union promised them not only power and skill, but also a strengthening of friendship and mutual respect. He watched silently as those around him strived for perfection, and he couldn't help but notice that their diligence was beginning to influence him, instilling his own share of inspiration and desire for self-improvement. Of course, Rui happily accepted this dynamic atmosphere and most likely wanted to become stronger by accepting the influence of those around him into his character and improving along with them. So they decided to put in moderate efforts, moving towards their goals and perfection together, supporting each other on this important path. The main character supported the guy in his aspirations and endeavors, standing next to him, ready to help and inspire him to achieve his goals. After some time, the main character again found himself in endless hell, where he continued his training, striving for perfection. This time, his look was more confident, and he approached training with more determination and self-confidence. This visible progress in his efforts encouraged not only him but also those around him, including the girl. Their faith in his abilities grew even stronger, and they continued to support him in his journey to excellence. He became much better and was even able to injure a girl, which was a clear indication of his improvement and growth in his fighting skills. She noticed that he had started training and realized that his persistence and determination in the process had not gone unnoticed. The protagonist openly admitted that he has many teachers, and he is taught by guys who have outstanding sword skills. Chris noticed that he was serious about his work and realized that his drive for excellence and achieving his goals was a real priority for him. Rui wondered why his little sister and Rio weren't in the endless hell, expressing his concern and worry over her absence. She began to explain that they were on different floors of an endless hell, separating them in this world but remaining in contact. This knowledge of the second floor aroused his keen interest and desire to explore this uncharted area of endless hell, to learn more and perhaps meet his sister and Rio on a new level of this mysterious world. The girl was forbidden to say who exactly was on the second floor, and this rule added even more mystery and intrigue to her communication with Rui. The main character was a little upset after these words, since the hope of meeting his sister and Rio was overshadowed by the ban on disclosing information about them. Chris admitted that it seemed like the guy in his world really did meet the main character's granddaughter, which caused surprise and joy among everyone. It turned out that it was Charlotte, and the protagonist admitted that they were friends, which added new threads of connection and understanding between them. At first, she treated him with displeasure, but after the duel between them, their relationship changed dramatically, and she began to see him as a true friend and ally. It turns out that she's actually very lonely and strives to become stronger not only for herself, but for others. And that added layer of depth to the exploration of her character and motivations. Chris was sure that she lived happily, but at the same time it was important for her to share this joy and happiness with others, so she strove to become stronger and more useful to others. The guy admitted that she also helps him with her life activities, and their interaction turned out to be mutually inspiring because they supported each other in the search for their own strength and the meaning of life. Since 6 hours have passed and the boy has started to become transparent, they will have to say goodbye soon, leaving behind important lessons and inspiration for future endeavors. Before he left, Chris stopped him to express her gratitude and promised to continue her journey to excellence in his absence. She asked him to be wary of the Genesis sect and to be vigilant, warning him of potential dangers along the way. The girl couldn't give him any details, but she assured him that when he uncovered the mysteries of the endless hell, he would definitely have to contact her and learn more about the Genesis sect. She emphasized that he must be vigilant and careful, otherwise he risked being left with nothing when he uncovered the secrets of the endless hell and the Genesis sect. After this important information, the boy began his journey back to his world, with the hope of future contact and a deeper understanding of the endless hell and its secrets. The girl's expression showed that she was genuinely worried about the boy, and her concern was a reflection of their growing bond and friendship. At this time, a change came, and the boy and the girl, leaving in their hearts the hope and promise of meeting again, separated for a while to continue their studies and adventures in their own worlds. The main character was very bored without her, and he felt that in her absence something important and special had left his life. Since Charlotte was busy, he needed to arrange for someone to spend time with and go for a walk to relieve his boredom and loneliness. Feeling hungry, he decided to go somewhere to eat to satisfy his appetite and spend time usefully. At this time, he heard that there was a showdown going on somewhere in the vicinity, and this made him be vigilant and cautious before going further. The protagonist immediately decided to approach and find out what the problem was, ready to offer his help if needed. At this time, it turned out that the same angry guy from the class was arguing with someone, and the situation looked tense and potentially dangerous. However, it turned out that it was Wolf, and the main character was familiar with his difficult character and tendency to conflict. The protagonist approached Wolf and asked what had happened, showing interest in what had caused the argument and conflict. The boy was asked to talk to his classmate, as he was closer to Wolf and might be able to calm the situation down and find out what happened, as it was difficult to get information from Wolf due to his anger. The atmosphere was very tense and everyone around felt anger and discontent, which created an unpleasant environment. After the man said that it was precisely because of this kind of aggression that he hated the human sphere, the guy flared up in rage, as this touched him and caused a wave of emotions. Rui intervened in the conversation and asked what had happened, showing interest in the conflict and a desire to resolve the situation. A classmate was accused of stealing goods from a man, which led to disagreements and conflict. The guy asked to tell, at least in general terms, what exactly happened, in order to understand the situation and possibly help resolve the conflict. The man began to tell that a thief had broken into his store, and he was sure that his classmate had stolen his merchandise, prompting these accusations. After he left, it became clear that the shop window had been smashed, adding an extra element of mystery and enigma to the situation. Immediately after calling the police, he decided to start the search himself, and his classmate actually had his stolen goods, which led to the resolution of the conflict and the restoration of justice. But the man did not believe that the boy could have done it alone, and was sure that he had help, which left doubts about how exactly the goods were returned. He wondered if this could really have been done by one guy alone, or if there were some hidden aspects to the story that he hadn't noticed. The boy had often heard that beastmen were accused without good reason, and this made him worry that he might be caught and accused without being provided with evidence of his innocence. The protagonist then decided that he would find the real thief to clear his name and provide evidence of his innocence, bringing justice to this difficult situation. However, these words did not help to calm everyone down, and the tense atmosphere remained unchanged, highlighting the complexity of the situation. Rui asked if this classmate could run fast, trying to find some evidence that could confirm or disprove his guilt. Then the main character decided to use magic to help solve this mysterious situation and find the real thief. He decided to use the smokescreen to create confusion and try to escape, perhaps giving himself extra time to think and act. It goes without saying that they immediately disappeared from the man's line of sight, leaving him in a state of panic and bewilderment. They tried to get away from the danger zone, and Rui led the boy towards safety to warn him of the possible consequences of theft and conflict. The man was left to wonder where his classmates could have disappeared to, leaving him in a state of confusion and unresolved questions. It is understandable that the man was enraged by such an act, and his feelings were so agitated that he could make rash decisions in an attempt to unravel this mysterious situation. He immediately began to get angry at the men standing nearby, because they were unable to prevent and did not see how his classmates ran away, which only increased his anger and disappointment. They couldn't figure out what to do now, faced with growing chaos and unexpected developments. They decided that they just needed to ask the Academy for help. How to ask for help from competent people to solve mysteries and solve difficult situations. One of them had to go ask for help, while the other began searching in order to act as effectively as possible in this situation. All this time, classmates sat on the roof and watched everything that was happening, remaining in a safe place so as not to get into the center of the conflict. At such a breakneck pace, the protagonist, like an arrow, might even attract the attention of a local group of knights, whose determination to hunt him down would only increase the tense situation he found himself in. The guy did not fall into pessimism. On the contrary, his determination was at its highest, and he strove to find the criminal as quickly as possible, filling himself with determination and hope. Wolf felt a little wary about this whole situation. He could not understand why the main characters got involved in this adventure, and in his mind there was a certainty that the mysterious individual they encountered was hiding some mysterious intentions. But the guy tirelessly and persistently began to convince Wolf otherwise, revealing his motives and conviction that this adventure would lead to solving important mysteries and saving many lives. Since he considered his classmate to be his true friend, he decided to provide him with assistance and help in this difficult matter. The guy's reaction was extremely stunning, as he had not expected to hear such words at all and felt genuine gratitude. He couldn't understand how this had happened, because every day he had growled at him and expressed his dissatisfaction, and now they were showing him gratitude and were ready to help. However, he still couldn't figure out what the guy's true purpose was. The main character, having shared his plan, suggested that his partner go to where he had found the mysterious bottle, assuring that this could give rise to new discoveries and reveal the key mysteries of this fascinating story. However, when they arrived at the designated location, they discovered that there were no traces or evidence left there. The guy turned to the group with an enthusiastic look and politely asked them to let him borrow this beautifully decorated bottle of wine for a while, as if he had an important plan. After receiving the bottle, he began to use magical analysis, blindingly revealing its origins and centuries-old history, as if opening before him a gate to unknown worlds. The protagonist enthusiastically admitted that the secrets of this magic were passed on to him by a close friend, whose wisdom came from ancient texts and mystical knowledge. Despite his passion and efforts, he realized that his mastery of magic had not yet reached the heights at which his friend had reached, and that he still had a lot of study and practice ahead of him. The main character, through the magical atmosphere, suddenly discovered something and broke the silence, suggesting to the assembled company to go somewhere, as if expecting an important discovery or adventure. Without explaining a word to his friend, he resolutely continued to run away, as if he was rushing towards something urgent, leaving him in bewilderment and intrigue. Wolf, watching closely what was happening, noticed that Rui was moving at a speed that seemed inhuman, which caused his surprise and suspicion of his friend's mysterious abilities. After these words of Wolf, the main character accelerated even more, as if embodying in himself a strength and energy that defied explanation and pushed him towards an unknown goal. After some time, as if called by an incredible force, they found themselves in a place that seemed to have overcome time and space, waiting to see what would open up before them in this mysterious location. The tracks they noticed led into the building, as if inviting them to explore the secrets hidden within its shelter. After some thought, the guy decided that in this situation it would be better to return the bottle, because he felt that the upcoming exploration of this mysterious place could take a lot of time and effort. Wolf, stunned by the developments, could not understand whether this was the very barn they were looking for, or whether another mystery had opened up before them. The protagonist was impatient to get inside, as if his heart beat in unison with the secrets hidden behind these doors, and he longed to reveal their secrets. In the midst of their intriguing exploration, Charlotte, who had been searching for them all this time to no avail, suddenly appeared, disrupting their moment of excitement and mystery solving. She admitted that she had come there for their sake, expressing deep concern and anxiety for their safety, and wanted to be there to help and support them in their adventures. The girl said that she used magical powers to search for their traces, as if connecting with the outside world to find friends and be there in difficult times. True, using magical power was not an easy task for her, and she admitted that it took a lot of effort to find them in this mysterious location. Finding themselves in this unusual situation before her, they instantly thought that Charlotte had come, perhaps with the purpose of catching them or bringing them back to the path of safety. They breathed a sigh of relief when they received a positive response from Charlotte, realizing that she was not opposed to them, but on the contrary, wanted to help and support them on this mysterious journey. Today, she was called to the royal palace to be a magic instructor for the warriors. Then suddenly a request came to find them. These words clearly upset the protagonist, crushing his hopes and leaving him in a state of disappointment and misunderstanding. Wolf, not ready to give himself up to Charlotte so easily, felt an inner rebellion and determination to continue his research, despite all the difficulties and disappointments. However, from the girl's reaction it was clear that she was not very serious about catching them, and perhaps even shared their desire to explore this mysterious location. Then she suddenly decided to help them completely, as if changing her original intentions, and they felt a surge of relief and support from Charlotte. After her decision to help, the protagonist hugged his friend tightly, feeling deep gratitude and joy that they could explore this mysterious world together. She was very embarrassed by this unexpected embrace, but at the same time she felt in it the warmth and support that she had needed for a long time. Wolf decided to attract attention to himself and began to talk animatedly, as if trying to lighten the mood and involve everyone in conversation to ease the awkwardness of the moment. He couldn't understand why the girl decided to help them, because she was the granddaughter of a hero, and her valor could suffer if she continued to help such a beastman. She asked them not to consider his words nonsense, explaining that, on the contrary, abandoning people in trouble hurt her valor, and her decision to help did not depend on what kind of person he was in her eyes. The guy didn't hide the fact that he was slightly stunned by these words, feeling how the internal conflict began to dissipate, and he received support and understanding from an unexpected ally. For some unknown reason, she suddenly took up her sword, as if preparing for something that might require her protection, and they were once again overcome with mystery and uncertainty. Then, feeling the tension growing, they decided to end the situation quickly, realizing that they had many challenges and secrets ahead, and time was an important resource. When they opened the doors, they were stunned by what they saw, as if a world of wonders and secrets had opened up before them, and they were ready for new adventures and discoveries. There was a great deal of expensive stuff there, impressive both in its wealth and elegance, as if they had entered a treasure trove they had never even dreamed of. And inside, it turned out to be even more spacious than Charlotte thought. She appreciated the enormous possibilities hidden inside this place. From all appearances, the man inside was involved in shady dealings, and the boy was sure that many of the items here had been stolen or acquired dishonestly. Most likely, it was a secret warehouse of a group of thieves, where stolen treasures and valuables were stored, and they found themselves in the very epicenter of secret criminal machinations. The protagonist was sure that it was better to quickly inform the knights or other servants of the law about what they had discovered in order to prevent further criminal acts and restore order. And immediately after these words, guns were pointed at them. A threatening aura suddenly surrounded them, and they realized that the situation had become even more complicated and dangerous. They were surrounded by dozens of people, creating an atmosphere full of tension and hostility, and they found themselves in a conflict zone where choices and actions were becoming decisive. A man came up to them and asked if they were lost, as if trying to bring some clarity to a difficult situation, and they felt a slight relief, although they didn't quite understand what was happening. His name was Ghoul, and he turned out to be the leader of this gang, controlling all these people in the situation, and they realized that they were now dealing with an important player in this mysterious incident. In their impressions, he was a fairly authoritative figure in the criminal world, which emphasized the seriousness of the situation and the need for caution in dealing with him. For some reason, the boy had doubts that this man was really the leader of the thieves, perhaps because of his unusual appearance or behavior, and this added to the mystery of the situation. He made good money from thefts, but the main character was determined not to let him make money from all this stolen property and believed that justice should prevail. He was determined to stop the thief and his illegal activities, even if it meant facing off against a high-profile figure in the criminal world. The man suddenly felt that he seemed to have seen the main character somewhere, and his gaze at the young man became full of suspicion and bewilderment. Then, as if revealing some secret, he said that he was very lucky to see this young man, and his words caused surprise and questions among everyone present. He didn't think that his goal would come to him on its own, and his attitude towards the main character became even more mysterious, leaving many unsolved questions in the air. Charlotte resolutely drew her sword and took a stance, preparing to defend herself. And her determination was clear despite the difficulty of the situation. Wolf was very angry that the man had stolen goods from souvenir shops, which could expose him to suspicion and hostility from the locals, and he expressed his indignation vigorously. The man couldn't even remember which souvenir shop he stole the goods from, and his incredible carelessness and oversight added to the mystery of the situation. He did not deny that one of his subordinates had stolen something from there, and he did not see this as a huge problem. Then he started to laugh and show where all the goods were. After these words, the guy will definitely not forgive them and will tear them apart on the spot. The man realized that it looked like the guy got into trouble for this act. Mocking him, he offered to become his master as an apology. Wolf was shocked by this proposal and was already at the peak of his rage. He began to explain that he actually had one rich suitor for the guy. People break down psychologically quickly, so they are short-lived. Wolf's nerves couldn't take it anymore, and he was ready to tear everyone and everything apart. But the main character stopped him in time and thus prevented a fight. He was sure that they simply wanted to anger him, and he should not give in to this. Charlotte, he asked her to shut up because she herself was looking down on him. The guy asked them not to think about it because they don't think so, he's just talking nonsense. These words also slightly surprised Wolf because he had apparently never heard anything like this before. After that, he really calmed down a little and came to his senses. The main character hoped that the guy had learned his lesson and understood everything. Wolf's gaze shifted to Rui's bloody fist. He admitted that he would pay the man back for insulting his friend. The man ordered his subordinates to deal with the guy because he sees him as a huge problem. Their eyes lit up with excitement for a fight. In addition, the man asked not to hit Ryu in the face, thereby mocking him. The man realized that if he sold him to perverts who loved pretty boys, they would pay a lot for it. It sounded disgusting. But after some time, the man's gaze changed very abruptly. He was scared. His subordinate's fingers were broken in every possible way. The main character used a technique called golden shell and also finger removal. The man was very scared of this and could not understand who was standing in front of him. Well, the main character was calm and noticed that the man's gun began to shake. In turn, he tried with all his might to show that he didn't care and that he was calm. And then he even ordered them to open fire. Well, the guy had an idea of what to use to protect them. He used a technique called the crane. Wolf had never seen such a technique before. And everyone present had already run out of ammunition. And now the friends had a chance, but they had to try not to damage what they had stolen. Rui dealt with his opponents with ease and did not see them as a danger. And Charlotte helped him at this time, as always. She asked to leave someone with her. Their team worked really well together, which brought results. Wolf was stunned by the sequence of attacks as they defended each other's blind spots. And after some time, everyone present was lying unconscious. The man had no choice but to shoot the standing guy. At this time, Wolf turned away and did not notice the bullet flying towards him. In a split second, she had to approach the guy. When he noticed everything, he became very scared and didn't know what to do. Rui noticed this too and realized that he needed to do something. The main character began to approach the guy in order to help him. And a split second later, screams were heard in the building and blood was flowing. Wolf was informed that his arrival had been long awaited and that the meeting was awaited with impatience, as if it were a harbinger of a long-awaited event. This time he was clearly late. Time flowed through his fingers like grains of sand in an hourglass, and the moment of meeting turned into an incredibly slow wait. The wolf, burning with curiosity, could not understand the reason for his invitation, as a mysterious invitation, decipherable only by the slow unraveling of riddles. He was led out with a tempting hint of something mysterious, like the curtain rising before a mysterious performance in the evening light. The boys were eager to show off such a creature as the wolf to their peers, as if lifting the curtain on the amazing and monstrous world hidden in the shadows. Then, as if in a wicked dance of fate, guns were pointed at him, creating a tense moment, like a cinematic scene where a dark turn of events awaits its resolution. For some unknown reason, Wolf was told that he was lucky, as if some mysterious happiness had slipped through the secret loops of fate, granting him unexpected good fortune. And at that moment it became clear to him that they were pursuing dishonest goals, like a secret conspiracy, and they were simply going to put him up for sale, like a commodity in a world of intrigue and betrayal. Their intention filled him with distrust, like a foggy haze, and he could not realize that their plans were so permeated with darkness that it was difficult to believe in their reality. Being shocked, he gradually transformed his inner anxious impulse into a whirlwind of anger, like a blazing fire after the death of an unknown bustle. With a mocking grin, The boys asked him if he really believed he could be friends with people, as if to undermine his confidence in his own hopes. After what happened, Wolf finally decided that he would no longer trust people, as if giving himself an oath to avoid such deceptions and betrayals in the future. But suddenly remembering how Rui saved him from a fatal bullet, he realized that even in the darkest moments there is light, reconsidering his previous beliefs with new hope. Rui justified his actions by explaining that to him. The wolf was the same as everyone else, and that he saw no obstacle in the fact that the wolf was not human. After all people, like fugitives in search of their essence, just like the wolf at this moment, strive to find their true path in this labyrinth of existence. Rui just didn't want Wolf to become something he wasn't because he understood that Wolf might seem rude and unapproachable on the outside, but on the inside he was kind and sensitive. When meeting teachers and peers, Wolf became the object of discrimination, and he naturally did not like being the subject of insults and misunderstanding. Charlotte immediately ran up to the guy, eager to know if his friend was okay, as if showing concern in moments of uncertainty. Having invited the couple to relax, Wolf himself decided to show them something unusual, like a mysterious performance that was supposed to amaze their imagination. Finally, he decided to show them his real self. Not the mask he wears, but his true form as a wolf, as if revealing his soul to them. Literally, a moment later, the boy and girl became witnesses of the real wolf in his true form, as if revealing to them the secret of his true essence. Charlotte assumed that it was an atavism, giving the whole situation even more mystery and enigma, as if revealing unknown facets not only of the guy, but of nature itself. She had heard about this more than once, as if opening up to her a new world of secrets and mysteries, which she had only briefly touched upon in her previous knowledge. Long ago, the Beastmen had the amazing ability to change their appearance, as if resurrecting an ancient legend in their own incarnation. She heard that nowadays, very few Beastmen were born with such an ability, so this guy was one of those unique creatures that were legendary. All those who dared to harm the wolf deeply regretted it, for he easily surpassed their strength, as if leaving them helpless and disappointed. The bandits desperately tried to defend themselves from the guy's attack, putting all their strength into repelling his attacks, as if they were caught in the whirlwind of an unpredictable battle. Charlotte noticed that the wolf moved with astonishing speed, like a ghostly, lightning-flashing sword in the hands of an invisible warrior. Then the guy simply destroyed all the male guards, like a whirlwind of unstoppable force, sweeping away everything in its path. After this, Jackson began to call out to someone, as if a harbinger of new events developing an incredible intrigue. In his arsenal, as it turned out, there was an unusual weapon ally, a wise parrot, as an unusual ally in strategic intrigues. Wolf was surprised to find that Jackson had such a rare weapon, as if he had stumbled upon an unexpected secret in his arsenal. Jackson struggled to get the parrot to fly, as he was deeply frightened and unable to cope with the task, as if he was faced with unexpected difficulties. The boy couldn't let the man do this, as if he felt a deep responsibility and felt like he had the burden of protecting someone who couldn't protect himself. Jackson realized that he would have to sacrifice some entity or substance, as if he were faced with a difficult choice for the greater good. At the final stage, she only said that someone should take on the guy, as if challenging and forcing herself to take responsibility for resolving the situation. The initially ordinary and vague substance began to transform into some kind of monster, as if a monster with an indefinite threat was being formed from the dark depths. Both of them were in a state of bewilderment at what they saw, as if they had encountered something that went beyond their understanding and expectations. Jackson wasn't surprised that the boy was so scared, as if he realized that he was faced with something terrible and incomprehensible, which led to natural fear. It was a very rare specimen of slugs, as it sucked in objects and grew in size, as if it had properties unique among its species. Jackson didn't want to use it for Wolf's sake, but he knew it was his fault that he attacked him, as if to make the extreme measures necessary. Wolf felt like he needed to catch up with the man before he could strike, as if he knew now was the moment to take decisive action. At this time, he simply stood there, posing no threat, as if remaining calm and peaceful. But it was only after some time that he finally made some movement, and it became clear that he was trying to grab the wolf, as if making a surprise attack. Luckily, the boy easily dodged this attack, as if showing brilliant dexterity and avoiding trouble. But the unconscious stranger found himself under attack, as if he had become an unfortunate bystander in what was happening. Something strange was happening in this bubble. The slime began to absorb the stranger, as if immersing him in its unusual essence, causing mysterious changes. The slime swallowed him up, as if plunging him into the unknown depths of his inner world, leaving behind only mysterious traces of what had happened. When the enemy tried to grab Rui, Charlotte managed to save him in time, as if showing accuracy and determination in protecting her friend. The monster then began to attack the rest of those present, like a whirlwind of chaos and fear, causing a storm of struggle for survival in this incredible confrontation. They then realized that this A-rank monster was extremely dangerous, as if it had encountered a power beyond their normal perception and resistance. If the wolf remains in this barn, he will be sucked in, as if emphasizing the inevitability of danger and the monster's persistence in devouring. He needed to leave, as if he were faced with a growing threat that underscored the urgency of his action. The guy realized that he would have to figure out how to fight such a monster, as if he was faced with a task that required special understanding and skills. After all, even experienced adventurers fight in groups with such monsters, as if emphasizing the complexity and seriousness of the situation in which the guy found himself. But Rui begged his friends not to give up, because if he wasn't stopped now, things would only get worse, as if calling for decisive action in the face of the impending threat. Thanks to Charlotte's treatment, the boy was able to start moving, as if coming to life under her caring hands and regaining his strength. Rui decided to use a technique called icing, as if turning to his unique abilities to fight the monster. And strangely enough, a real block of ice appeared around the monster, as if as a result of a magical combination of the efforts of Rui, Charlotte, and the boy. The icy appearance of the monster became more and more complete and massive, as if its essence was sealed in a cold shell. He concentrated all his efforts on trying to get out of this cunning trap, as if every movement became a test of his will and endurance. He managed to get out to some extent, and he attacked the currently defenseless and weak Rui, as if trying to use his momentary freedom to counterattack. Charlotte couldn't just stand there and watch this. After all, she had to stand out too, as if she was taking decisive action to help Rui at this critical moment. Then at some point it happened that the monster literally swallowed the entire barn, as if devouring its walls and ceiling, leaving only traces of its greedy presence. The wolf continued to insist that they needed to run before it was too late, as if sensing a growing threat in the space engulfed by the monster. Well, the guy and Charlotte had a different opinion and began to fight the monster, as if they decided not to give up in the face of an incredible challenge that needed to be overcome. The girl decided to use the heroic Sakura heart technique, as if summoning strength and determination comparable to the splendor of spring blossoms. Then, with all her determination, she was fully prepared to attack, as if preparing for an impressive and powerful throw towards the monster. She, framed in an atmosphere of mystery, conveyed that she confided everything unspoken to Rui, expressing boundless trust and creating a whirlwind of mystery and anticipation around herself. As if with a magic touch, he wove into his assurances not only firm confidence, but also invisible threads of anxiety, creating an invisible thread that connected their hearts in an invisible dance of devotion and hope. The beast monolith, under the power of the ice spell, disappeared under the cover of ice like a frozen mystery, giving the landscape a dark beauty in which the unknown secrets of history are hidden. There was distrust in the wolf's eyes, as if he was still wandering in the shadows of doubt, not believing that this giant of time and fate was really in them. They were left behind with the Ice Titan only to rush after Jackson as if time was short, and their fate depended on every moment they lived. After this epic battle, Rui realized that his powers had not yet fully returned, as if the fire within him, although burning brightly, took time to flare up to full power again. Together with Charlotte, amid the echoes of the battle, they claimed that Jackson had gone far ahead, hidden in the shadows of distant horizons, as if finding him had become an impossible mission in the ocean of night. Wolf, full of confidence, assured that he could catch up with Jackson if he followed his scent, like a wolf scenting his prey, opening up the possibility of catching up with the fugitive in this hunt for the traitor. Showing an unprecedented sense of humor, the wolf asked with a smile if the boy was going to climb on him, as if playfully ignoring the shadow of uncertainty hanging in the air. With a slight wink, Wolf noted that if the guy decided to do this, it would become a symbol of absolute trust, like an unusual gesture that warmed the cool of the night with extraordinary friendship and trust. With sadness in his voice, Wolf noted that he could not yet fully trust all people, as if shadows of suspicion still flickered in his eyes, filling his soul. Wolf, having weighed his experiences, realized that his characteristics were different from others, and this understanding accompanied him for a long time, as if it were an integral part of his uniqueness in this world. With a trepidation in his voice, Wolf, trying to avoid sounding benevolent, asked for help rather than doing them a favor, as if the mixture of vulnerability and strength in his request gave the moment a special depth. With determination, Charlotte decided to take responsibility for those who were swallowed by the slug and went to deal with Jackson as if she was an integral part of their destiny, filled with secrets and trials. With a sudden burst of friendship, the boy climbed onto his comrade's shoulders, and together they rushed forward like a whirlwind, in which strength and determination merged, filling the night with the ringing echo of their decisive march. Using a bracelet found by Jackson in the ruins of the capital, they deciphered mysterious signs that opened the way forward for them, like a glowing thread leading through the dark labyrinths of the past. The bracelet was decorated with a large stone, and it was certainly not just a treasure. By selling it along with the mysterious bird, they could get a significant amount, as if exchanging the mysterious for the material in this game of fate. He swore unforgiveness, deciding that by reviving his gang, he was pursuing the goal of taking revenge on them for all their troubles, as if creating in his destiny the shadow of a majestic vendetta. The wolf, like a cunning hunter, caught the scent of a man and immediately set off in pursuit, as if dancing with the wind, where the scent became a thread leading him to a hidden goal. Having learned that Jackson had already left the city limits, Wolf shared the information like the wind, carrying the news of his departure, and embodied his determination to catch up with him in the desert night. Wolf, filled with a premonition of future events, enthusiastically anticipated the upcoming meeting, as if in a previously solved chapter of his adventure novel. With the agility of a predator, he began to easily climb the wall, like a shadow, slowly and silently, enveloping himself in the invisible veil of the night hunt. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared over one side of the fence like shadows crossing the line between light and darkness, leaving behind the bustling world of the city. The wolf, standing on the new side of the city labyrinth, asked what they should do next, as if the starting point of the adventure now required a choice of direction. Rui insisted that they must attack Jackson without allowing him to escape, as if the strategy required decisive action to ensure that the moment of retribution was not missed. Using a well-honed strategy, Rui took advantage of the medium gravity, as if cleverly playing a game with gravity, to approach his goal with an irresistible determination. Jackson was faced with a lack of understanding of what was happening, and the guy, enjoying the moment, mocked him, as if he had mastered the secrets of their power. It was time to move on to the next stage of their plan, as if the pieces of the adventure puzzle were beginning to fit together, waiting to be completed. After that, everything depended on the guy, as if he was the key player in their strategy, and all eyes were turned in his direction, waiting for his next moves. He began to rise in front of them, preparing for the next jump, as if there was a tense energy in the air and the upcoming jump promised to change the course of events. With a series of worries and expectations, he rose into the air, performing the promised jump, as if they were being swept up in a wave of action, carrying them into the next episode of this night's performance. With a mocking grin, the guy said that it seemed like they hadn't met for a long time, as if he was playing his own game and using a cunning move in his secret plan. Jackson was amazed and could not understand how the guy had managed to get through to him, as if the mysterious meeting had shrouded them in questions, casting a cloak of opaque mystery over them. Jackson tried in vain to buy the guy off, but he, being principled, insisted that he did not need the stolen things, as if refusing temptation in favor of his principles. Even when he began offering him a woman as compensation, Jackson realized that the boy remained relentless in his convictions, as if warning him against the dark path. With pride and confidence, the guy declared that all these attempts to buy himself off were of no interest to him, because he already had a loved one, as if protecting his world from alien intervention. In response to these words, the boy's next step was to hit the man, as if expressing his unyielding unwillingness to negotiate and emphasizing his determination with the language of physical force. Rui used a technique called golden shell, as if revealing his skill in battle and creating a whirlwind of brilliance and elegance in the chaos of battle. The blow was so powerful that Jackson was thrown several meters into the air, as if becoming part of a temporary dance of power where gravity succumbed to the force of his crushing blow. By this sudden turn of events, they were given the opportunity to relax, as if the shadow of tension had given way to calm, and the phase of their adventures had been suspended for a moment. The protagonist politely asked the parrot if he could land, as if asking an exotic satellite about the possibility of landing on Earth. Having landed, the guy immediately began to maneuver, calling his friend to look after the parrot, as if creating a picturesque picture of the interaction of the members of their difficult team. It became surprisingly clear that Wolf had managed to catch Jackson at the moment of his landing, as if by a magic of events, where dexterity and cunning had woven an invisible web around the characters. The guy, evaluating every word with his eyes, asked if Rui trusted him, as if the issue of trust had become a key point in their relationship. With a smile, the main character joked that he didn't quite understand what the guy was talking about, as if adding humor to their dialogue and softening the tension of the moment. Now all that was left was to follow Charlotte, as she continued her mission to save the thieves, as if opening new chapters in their adventurous journey. Noticing the man's bracelet, the protagonist somehow found it familiar, like a surge of long-forgotten memories calling to the secrets of his past. The wolf turned to his friend and began to find out if anything unusual had happened, as if closely monitoring the well-being of the main character. It didn't take long before they found themselves next to Charlotte, as if their paths had merged in a dance of fates and adventures, trusting in the course of events. During this time, Charlotte truly provided assistance to all victims, as if her good deeds became an integral part of their fight for justice and well-being. It was only natural that at this moment the knights arrived, as if personifying the defenders of justice, adding a touch of mystery and nobility to their plot. Now they were faced with the task of proving Wolf's innocence, as if it were the beginning of a new stage, where truth and justice were once again hanging in the balance. This was perhaps the most difficult part of their work, as if solving the mystery and protecting innocence required effort, will, and the unification of all forces. Yuri asked the knights to make a report on the damage caused, as if using his authority to assert the truth of his position in a difficult situation. The guy expressed his strong indignation at what had happened, as if the fire in his eyes was burning with indignation, and his emotions spoke the language of protest and rejection. Yuri expressed contempt for the thieves, stating that their presence made his stomach ache, as if the words filled the air with condemnation and disgust. In addition, for some reason the parrot also seemed to be alarmed and did not listen, as if sharing its anxiety with those around it. However, in the end, the parrot seemed to find a common language with the guy and became friends, as if taming even the most unruly birds with his charm. Wolf suggested that the parrot seemed to be expressing a desire to become his friend, as if deciphering the language of birds and opening a new chapter in their adventurous union. In addition, it turned out that the guy is able to understand what the parrot is talking about, thanks to his ability called atavism, as if opening up new facets of mutual understanding for them. Since the boy was more animal than human, he could somehow understand animal conversations, as if there was an animal whisper in his soul, revealing the mysterious world of the wild. The guy decided to ask the manager if he could adopt the parrot, smoothly moving from mysterious languages to practical solutions in his life. The main character could not understand why he liked this parrot so much, as if the secret of his affection for his feathered friend remained unsolved. Wolf felt as if he knew the reason for this affection, as if secrets were flashing in his eyes, far from the gaze of everyday life. Because the wolf feels an extraordinary energy and strength in the parrot, incommensurate with its tiny body, as if incredible magic and power are hidden in this feathered creature. The wolf never understood why the main character always strives to help everyone around him, as if this riddle contained the mysterious essence of his soul, full of kindness and attention to others. He may have strength now, but before he was completely helpless, as if solving the riddle of transformation from vulnerability to strength in an inexplicable life story. Before, he was absolutely helpless, but one day he had teachers, like wise guides, who opened the way to his potential and power. He learned a lot from them, and most importantly, he learned kindness and love. So he decided to become someone who would give, not take away. The guy couldn't make out what his friend was talking about, as if another secret in their relationship was unfolding before him, requiring attention and understanding. So now he passes on his knowledge and teaches others what he has been taught, as if the chain of goodness and learning continues its incredible adventure. After these words, the guy, for some unknown reason, assumed a strange pose, as if magically joining a ritual that only he understood, adding mystery to the air around him. As it turned out, this was the pose of an animal lover, which symbolized complete obedience, as if the guy had internally connected with wild nature and accepted its laws. The wolf confessed that he fell in love with the spirit of the guy, as if his soul was so attractive and unique that even the beast could not resist this magic. He asked the boy to make him his companion, as if declaring his willingness to devote himself to service and care as a sign of devotion. Rui, of course, immediately began to dissuade the guy, claiming that this was a bad idea, as if foreseeing the difficulties and failures associated with this strange idea of Wolf. Wolf shared that he too would not mind just being friends with the guy, as if trying to neutralize the tension and offer a compromise solution. But in the very depths of his soul, he still wants to serve him, as if there were an inner desire to overcome rational considerations and follow his feelings. Rui agreed to the guy's proposal, but added that nevertheless he would always address him as a friend, as if emphasizing that in their relationship, friendship is valued above all else. Charlotte was glad to see how the boys had become friends, as if in their combined strength she saw hope for a successful resolution of all the problems and trials that faced them. She asked her friend for forgiveness, suggesting that perhaps their friendship was due to discrimination against beastmen, as if she felt responsible for the possible misunderstanding. The cannibal sought to end discrimination but died halfway. This work was to be completed by his heirs, but unfortunately they did not have the necessary abilities, as if revealing a new layer of complex family histories. Charlotte, wanting to put an end to discrimination, apologizes for the misunderstandings, realizing that her ancestors, focusing on their abilities, were unable to change the circumstances, and now everything depends on their heirs. The boy thanked Charlotte for thinking about his race, as if her words reflected gratitude for her understanding and support in the fight against bias. As he began to explain that the problem wasn't just Charlotte's ancestry, but that his own race was partly to blame. The boy stressed the importance of universal recognition and responsibility in order to make progress on the issue. He said their conversation made him realize the need to study each other's races more deeply, as if their interaction had awakened a thirst for understanding and tolerance. Thus, he expressed his belief that just as he studied his own race, humans should also pay more attention to studying the beastmen, as if offering a path to mutual understanding and rapprochement between the two different worlds. Charlotte assured that she would definitely try to promote this idea, as if expressing her readiness to take an active part in the process of rapprochement and mutual understanding between different races. After all, she was the granddaughter of a hero, and for her, it was her duty to keep her word, as if a hereditary call to honor and responsibility sounded in her vest. After these words, they shook hands, as if symbolizing agreement and a common path to creating a more harmonious and understanding world. The boy was very nervous about Jackson and was afraid that the knights would find out about him, as if the tension in his soul was reflected in concern for his safety and the secrets that could be revealed. The boy was extremely surprised when he turned around and noticed a stranger behind him, as if the man's sudden appearance had introduced an unexpected element into his everyday life. The boy suddenly found himself known among his friends as Thorn, a mysterious symbol that permeated his being and instilled a sense of mystery like the wind on a cold night. After this, the mysterious stranger presented Jackson's dead head as a dark artifact, keeping unknown secrets in its lifeless eyes, slowing down the flow of time around itself. The mysterious guy could not understand his appearance, and at the same time the thought flashed through his mind that perhaps he came with the intention of committing suicide. The moment the boy tried to escape, his plans were ruined. The mysterious stranger easily stopped him, as if controlling his every step in this dark game of fate. In addition to his promises, the stranger mercilessly, as if breaking away from his own words, actually took his own life, leaving only a shadow of the past in his cold eyes. Having already accomplished a lot of things, it seemed reasonable to him to leave the capital for a while, as if leaving behind a trail of mystery and unknown events. The mysterious stranger who left the scene of the crime, in turn, left behind a whole bunch of riddles to which there seemed to be no answers. After some time, Wolf returned to class, as if his return had given him a new perspective and inner strength for the next stage of his journey. Rui was stunned by this idea, as if a whirlwind of unexpected thoughts had rushed through his head, leaving behind a trail of mysterious excitement and unknown prospects. At that moment, Mikhail joined them, as if the unexpected arrival had brought with it a fresh wind of change, filling the space with new possibilities and dynamics. Michael felt a sense of displeasure as he noticed that Rendell Wolf was silent. Then he said something decisively, as if intending to break this silent barrier. There was clearly an air of discontent between them, as if shadows of ill will were slowly spreading between them, creating a tense background in their communication. In this situation, Mikhail initiated everything that was happening, as if taking on the role of a leader, directing the course of events in his direction. In response to Michael's initiative, Wolf decisively offered him a duel, as if it were a challenge that could change the direction of their relationship, and there was more at stake than just words. All their classmates responded to this challenge, as if they had gathered around them to witness this unusual confrontation and decide who would emerge victorious in this duel. Charlotte came to the decision that after the duel they might feel better, and therefore there was no need to interfere, as if believing in the healing power of this confrontation to resolve the tension between them. The moment Yuri entered their circle, there was a determination in his eyes to share something important about the bracelet, as if interrupting a moment that could change everything. Once in the spotlight, the bracelet was not stolen. But the secret of its creation and purpose remained enigmatic, as if its origins were meant to be revealed and solved. Having debunked the mystery surrounding the bracelet, it turned out that it was an extraordinary artifact, the bracelet of the ogre himself. Like an inconspicuous link in the chain of his mysterious history, Yuri had a hard time accepting the fact that he had such an important bracelet in front of him, as if he doubted the truth of this discovery and its connection with the fate of the ogre. The girl asked to look at the inside of the bracelet. A flower was engraved on ogre's things. Having discovered that the bracelet was a family secret, Yuri tried to keep this information a secret, as if understanding that no outsider should know about it. The main character suddenly realized that in front of him was the very key that was mentioned to him, like a piece of a mysterious puzzle that could reveal long-awaited secrets. At that moment, his feelings did not deceive him, and he turned out to be right, as if intuition was leading him to the truth, revealing to him the long-awaited answer to the riddle. He politely asked to lend him this bracelet for a while, as if intending to delve into its secrets and unravel its meaning. If Charlotte did not object, then Yuri expressed his consent, as if all members of the group began to understand that this bracelet could become the key to solving many mysteries. The guy decided not to remove the seal right now, preferring to leave it untouched, as if realizing that it was better to try not to touch this mysterious artifact directly. Charlotte, blushing slightly, asked with a slight hint of irritation why he needed the bracelet, as if looking for answers to the questions that were troubling her. Charlotte, without showing any indignation, merely asked about the time when he could tell, as if striving for clarity regarding this mysterious story. He politely agreed to her proposal, as if he was ready to share this secret when the right moment came. In addition, Yuri was interested to know why the guy needed this bracelet, as if he had encountered another link in their common mysterious story. Late in the evening, the main character's friend the parrot appeared to him, as if unexpectedly bringing a fresh portion of clues and fun into this mysterious world. Wolf claimed that this parrot possessed wisdom, as if bringing intelligent thoughts into its surroundings, which added mystery to the overall context of events. According to residents, this parrot also won their favor, as if bringing joy and positive emotions to their common space. Now the guy decided to start studying the bracelet, which seemed to open a new path to solving the mysteries he encountered. As he put the bracelet on, a blinding light suddenly flooded around him, as if opening a door to a world of vivid revelations and mysterious possibilities. He wondered what floor he was on this time, and perhaps he was about to encounter a hostile presence, as if every floor in this world could hide its own secrets and dangers. But to his surprise, after a long time, he finally found his sister Alice, as if meeting his loved one was an unexpected gift among the mysteries of this supernatural world. At that very moment, he was overcome with excitement, as if the meeting with his sister had broken all ties and returned to him a piece of previously lost harmony. The girl asked cautiously if Rui was really standing in front of her, as if the incredible return gave reason to wonder about the nature of this meeting. He answered positively, bringing joy to her heart, as if the confirmation of his identity meant unspeakable happiness to her at that moment of meeting. Both felt the joy of finally meeting again, as if the emotions in the embrace of the long-awaited meeting intertwined, creating a magical moment in their dissolute world. Alice was indescribably happy that they were together again, as if the happiness of reuniting with her brother had no boundaries, filling her heart with joy and warmth. The sister's friend reminded the main character that he, as always, was not indifferent either, as if emotions were overflowing him, causing tears of joy or perhaps melancholy. But he couldn't understand what she was talking about, because she herself was also crying, as if emotions and experiences made their meeting deep and mysterious. The brother and sister continued to look at each other after a long separation, as if their entire history, experienced together and now coming to life at this moment, was reflected in their glances. Over a cup of tea, Rui shared his story, recounting what had happened during this time, as if each word brought new nuances to their journey together. Her embrace was so strong and tight that she literally squeezed him between her breasts, as if trying to convey all her tenderness and love in this lifelong embrace. Alice's friend, already smiling, took the guy away from the girl herself, as if this unexpected turn of events added lightness and playfulness to their meeting. Rui, in turn, even thought that at this pace he might suffocate, as if the cheerful atmosphere around him created a feeling of incredible energy and movement. She asked him if he thought she was better than Alice. Rui asked if Alice was angry that he found the girl. Alice explained with a slight smile that her words were only a cheerful manifestation of good intentions, a play of the soul aimed at playfully teasing her brother. Lucy, with a peaceful smile, said that she was not angry about such trifles, adding that, in her opinion, friendship was more important, and even shared some wise advice with Alice. Moreover, Lucy noted that her joy would not have been exhausted only if Alice had consciously avoided such actions, emphasizing her uniqueness in expressing emotions. When they met again, Rui invited them to share their knowledge, expressing a desire to learn something new from them, thus creating an exciting prospect of sharing experiences. Then, completely at a loss, Alice decided to amaze Rui by starting to demonstrate complex and incomprehensible techniques to him, opening up a world of unique techniques to him. Lucy, naturally, kept up with her friend and happily shared her amazing methods and techniques with Rui, creating an atmosphere of inspiration and exchange of experience around them. The three souls, reunited, were filled with joy, realizing that they were united again. Sparks of satisfaction flickered in each heart, revealing the priceless treasure of friendship. Rui, immersed in the learning process and absorbing the knowledge of Alice and Lucy, gradually became transparent, as if his essence was dissolving in a stream of new ideas and skills. The worried and surprised girls could not figure out the meaning of this mysterious transformation and begged Rui to explain the secret of what was happening. Rui began to explain that his physical body was in the real world, while here, in the dimension they had encountered, only his soul remained, freely moving in a whirlpool of knowledge and experience. It is thanks to this that after 6 hours in the endless space filled with knowledge and trials, he returns back, overcoming the barriers between worlds, to reunite his soul with his body in the real world. Now, with the realization of the mystery of Rui and his travels between worlds, Alice understood the depth of what was happening and with a sense of wonder comprehended all her amazing experience. She hugged her brother tightly, as if she wanted to embrace the entire moment, leaving the memory of him in her heart before he plunged into the whirlwind of his spiritual journey again. Rui, puzzled, could not understand why Alice had reacted so sharply, overcome by an unknown mixture of love and secret fear for her brother, who was crossing the boundaries between worlds. It felt like an eternity had passed since he left, as if time and their worlds moved at different speeds, taking him on a long adventure. They simply asked him to remember that he had them both, keeping the connection not only across dimensions, but also in the deepest corners of their hearts. At parting, they only said that they would always be for him, supporting and protecting him, ready to be a support in the world where reality and spiritual journeys are intertwined. The girls were left alone again, but the fire of mutual support burned in their hearts. Their connection remained unshakable even in the absence of their brother, who went off into the world of mysterious travels. Lucy confidently predicted that they would meet again, but Alice seemed to look to the future with some doubt, not really believing in the inevitability of a reunion. The girl believed with complete confidence that Rui, despite all the difficulties and trials, would definitely overcome his trials, realizing his goals and winning his spiritual aspirations. As travelers passed through the gates, they were asked to present a migration card, which suddenly called into question the convenience and ease of travel. The man, with surprise in his eyes, could not understand the reason for the unexpected request for a migration card, lost in solving the mystery that had suddenly arisen on the path of his travels. The knight, trying to justify himself, explained his unexpected reaction by saying that this was the first time he had encountered a samurai, and he turned an admiring and slightly embarrassed gaze on this representative of a different military tradition. The man was asked curiously for what purpose he had set out on this journey, suddenly drawing attention to the mystery of his mission and intentions. He replied that he had a job, but stressed that it was not just an ordinary job, leaving the nature and meaning of his activities a mystery. Rui happily greeted everyone as he entered the classroom, spreading a positive vibe around him and filling the space with his energy. His greeting was returned, bringing warmth and friendliness back into the classroom. Quietly, he wished Iris a good morning, sending her quiet but sincere wishes that enveloped the start of his day in warmth and mystery. He was always intrigued by what Iris liked, and he was curious about her preferences, trying to unravel the mystery of her inner world. A classmate approached Iris to inquire about something, asking questions and creating an atmosphere of curiosity around the mysterious world of her interests and preferences. In an icy tone, she asked if the girl realized she was being ignored, leaving a hostile tension in the air and causing questions in Iris's heart. On the contrary, the girl was glad that Iris had finally spoken, experiencing a positive emotional excitement from the conversation and the new contact. Everyone in the class had already become friends, and only she felt a wall separating her from the others, a feeling of loneliness that she wanted to destroy. Rui looked forward to any chance to form a friendship with her, and his eyes shone with determination to break through the wall of misunderstanding and establish a connection with her world. Rui was approached for help with homework, which provided an opportunity to connect and get to know each other through a common cause, opening the door to a potential friendship. However, it is unclear why their gazes were directed into the distance, creating a moment of mysterious silence, like a hidden secret that has yet to be revealed. Lying on his desk, Rui was dying of boredom, immersed in the monotony of the school process, dreaming of adventures and unknown worlds that could enliven his day. Charlotte asked if Rui was okay while he was lying on the table, expressing concern and curiosity about his emotional state. She noticed that he had been unable to get enough sleep lately, expressing concern for his physical and emotional state. Rui, meanwhile, recalled how he played with his new friend the parrot, smiling at the memories of the joyful moments that brought light and rainbows into his life. At this time, he again felt a gaze on him, the same as at this moment in the classroom, causing him incomprehensible feelings and an unknown secret. He wondered if it might be an intent to kill him, sensing signs of an invisible threat that could darken his peace and quiet. Rui assured him that he was fine and that he was almost awake, trying to dispel the shadow of anxiety that had enveloped his sudden awakening. Charlotte didn't argue with the guy, taking his words on faith and showing understanding, leaving the moment without questions. The boy looked very excited as he sat in class, his emotions boiling, filling the air with an atmosphere of mystery and anticipation, as if something unusual was happening in his inner world. No matter where it comes from, and no one knows from whom, but it is sure to be next, as if a mysterious turn of fate were already rushing forward, bringing with it unknown variables. Walking through the forest, the main character felt that he was being watched, as if someone was following his footsteps, as if an invisible eye was secretly watching his every step. He decided to try something right there and then, creating a mysterious moment when the decisions and actions of the main character begin to influence the course of events, enveloping everything in an atmosphere of unpredictability. Ancient hieroglyphs were to be written around him, as if he had become an accomplice to an ancient secret, the deciphering of which could change his fate and the course of events. He drew a magic circle, embodying ancient knowledge and power in action, as if calling upon the mystical forces hidden in the mysterious geometry. The magic circle could create a barrier, and that is exactly what Rui wanted to do, magically separating his world from outside influences and keeping his travels a secret. Taki was able to catch someone. He felt a sense of success, as if his magic circle had worked, creating an invisible net that had caught the mysterious pursuer. Rui began to build a cage around himself, as if creating a magical amulet that would protect him from mysterious threats and allow him to unravel the secrets of his own world. To his surprise, he saw Iris standing before him inside the magical cage, as if her appearance was part of a mysterious plan he could not predict. He could not understand where she came from, or why exactly she ended up in his magic cage, as if the secret of her presence was to be solved along with the secrets of his own destiny. The protagonist wondered if she would catch him, anticipating the questions and doubts that would cast a shadow of uncertainty over their meeting in the magical world. But he did not want to fight her at all, revealing to her his true intentions and desire to unravel the secrets of their meeting together. Iris saw no point in answering the boy, creating a moment of confusion and mystery, as if her silence was part of a complex puzzle. She wanted to take revenge on him for her master, filling the air around her with tension and determination to change the course of events in her favor. After which, she began to attack her classmate, showing determination and strength, as if she had become a merciless protector of her master in this magical battle. Well, it is an honorable thing that Rui did not allow himself to be easily offended and began to defend himself, showing endurance and determination to stand up for his essence in this unusual battle. The girl used a technique called bloodshed, which embodied magical power and extraordinary energy, as if her attack came from ancient times and was aimed at releasing mysterious powers. And it actually worked, and the protagonist lay down right under a nearby tree, submitting to the power of the bloodshed technique, as if his resistance had been overcome by an extraordinary force. Now she had avenged her master, her attack having resulted in victory, creating a moment of satisfaction and triumph behind the ecstatic magical battle. Rui, on the other hand, began to smile and said that his arm still hurt, bringing a touch of irony and playfulness to the situation, as if, despite the defeat, he had not lost his sense of humor. Iris couldn't understand how the boy was able to rise up, creating a new moment of mystery and enigma in this unusual story, as if he possessed a power beyond ordinary understanding. This time, she was serious about finishing the guy off and used Bloody Scythe, releasing a new magic move with deadly energy, as if her determination was unassailable. Her gaze was confident and calm, as if at that moment her whole being was filled with determination and indifference, creating the image of a fearless warrior in this magical confrontation. In a split second, she began to attack the enemy, channeling her determination into magical movements, as if time had slowed down at that moment, leaving only the tense air around them. Easily dodging the attack, Rui danced among the glowing shards like a virtuoso, creating a whirlwind of emotion and brilliance that lingered in the memory long after that incredible moment. Noticing Rui's agile movements, Mrs. Iris sensed something unique in them. It was no wonder that she wanted to study this guy in more detail, because his grace was so attractive. Rui, like the wind, easily dodged the attack, noticing how Lady Iris was watching him with curiosity, and, slowing the girl's steps, politely asked her to explain who was at the origin of her charm and strength, revealing the secret that attracted his attention. She realized with rage that the boy, not recognizing her, had become the source of her disappointment, and a fire of rejection flared in her eyes. As the story progressed, it turned out that her lover, who became the object of Rui's attention, was not just a woman, but a demon queen, the embodiment of mysterious power and indomitable beauty in the world of magic. Hearing that her lover was the demon queen, Rui was momentarily in a state of mild shock, trembling in amazement at the magnificent secret that had just been revealed. Rui realized that his sister, who seemed ordinary in everyday life, had suddenly acquired a mysterious complexion after becoming the demon queen, and this discovery only added to his emotional turmoil. Iris, meeting Rui's gaze, suddenly declared that she felt energy from him, comparable to the power of a queen, which once again excited the imagination and created a new layer of mystery in their meeting. Yes, there was truth in these words, because after living 300 years with Alice, a piece of her power and soul penetrated into Rui, leaving something in him that survived time and retained its mysterious essence. Having discovered that his magical power was truly superior to that of a human, Rui realized that something incomprehensible flowed through his veins, something belonging to another, higher reality. She continued by promising to pass on only a small portion of her power to Rui, leaving the event in such a way that it would remain unnoticed and unknown to ordinary people. With a smile, Iris warned that Rui had the ability to deceive others, emphasizing that his art of stealth and disguise would impress those who met him. However, she emphasized that, despite his ability to deceive, she, as the ruler and queen of demons, does not fall for such tricks, remaining inaccessible to any tricks. Discovering that her magical eye had the unique ability to see magical energy, its shape and color, Iris added a new dimension to their exploration of the mysterious aspects of the magic that surrounded them. There was more to Rui's gaze than just the Demon King's magical energy. She saw in it an unknown power that could influence the deepest realities and secret currents of the universe. At first, she didn't notice it herself, but on the day of the exams, when magic was the most important, she felt that there was something outstanding and mysterious about Ru. Watching him closely during his exams, she noticed how skilled he was in black magic, revealing the dark aspects of his inner world, which added to the mystery of his personality. Then Rui, feeling her gaze, suddenly realized at what point he had used black magic, and this inner guess filled him with mixed feelings of discovery and self-knowledge. Overwhelmed by the flood of new information and inner revelations, Rui felt a slight shock, realizing that his world was full of mysteries and secrets that could hardly be revealed. He was at a loss as to who Iris was, who turned out to be the ruler and queen of demons, possessing so many mysterious and hidden abilities that each answer only brought new mysteries. Having decided to reveal her secret to the guy, Iris was ready to meet him and tell him who she really is, opening the door to new pages of their interaction. Iris revealed that she was one of the great Demon Queen's subjects and a vampire, revealing her true nature that was hidden from the eyes of many vampires. Rui was undoubtedly shocked by this unexpected news, and his emotions wavered between surprise, respect, and slight anxiety in the face of the mystery and magic surrounding this enigmatic vampire. The protagonist, experiencing a mixture of feelings, dared to find out if this girl was the very vampire he might have always been looking for in his soul and in the world of secrets. Iris explained that due to the small number of their kind, they are on the verge of extinction, convincing the protagonist that he is not only facing a mysterious vampire, but also a defender of his people, fighting for survival. Having figured out the plan of fate, Iris said that their family was saved from extermination by the boy's sister, who remained faithful to her past and her people, which added even more mystery and nobility to her eyes. As he studied these new details, The protagonist became increasingly overwhelmed, realizing the depth of the secrets and connections that were intertwined around him, creating a web of mysterious relationships and debts. Realizing that Alice, his sister, was in hell, the protagonist realized that finding her became an even more difficult task, because hell is a dark and inaccessible reality. Iris finally found a guy in the capital, a man with magical abilities comparable to the Demon King, which added new nuances to their meeting and relationship. So this means that the guy who has the Demon King's magical power is actually her real enemy, and opens up a new level of complexity in their relationship. Iris began to explain that there were only two ways to take over another's magical power. The first was to gradually take it away over a long period of time, but this method was not suitable for him due to his short lifespan. Rui naturally disagreed with this because his life was extremely long, and such a slow method was not an attractive option for him. Iris claimed that his power came from his act of murdering Alice, which became the source of his magical power, leaving him with a mixture of guilt and shock. Doubting the veracity of his words, the girl could not believe her boyfriend because the idea that he received his magical power from Alice's death seemed incredible to her. She decided that there was no point in asking him any more questions, as his answers had left her completely irritated and disappointed, leaving her in a state of dissatisfaction and confusion. A readiness to tear him to pieces on the spot took possession of her, and sparks of indignation flashed in her eyes, muffled by rage at the supposed betrayal and riddles that kindled a dark flame within her. Iris, using the supreme crucifix blood spear, the embodiment of her power, prepared for an act of vengeance aimed at the border between light and darkness, emphasizing her determination and skill in combat. The guy did not show any particular nervousness, as he believed in his own strength and confidence that he could overcome all difficulties and win the upcoming fight. To ensure his protection, he activated the Satanic Ray, the embodiment of dark forces, ready to answer the challenge and stand by his side in the fight against the powerful Iris. In the blink of an eye, the bloody spear disappeared as if it had never been there, emphasizing the fickleness of magic and the unpredictability of the outcome of this unusual battle. The girl refused to believe in his real power, since the idea of his power was distorted in the eyes of her confused mind, unable to comprehend such magical greatness. From that moment on, she fell to her knees, faced with invincibility and shock, opening a new chapter in her understanding of the magic and power that stood before her. Iris, overcoming her own bewilderment, was unable to fully unravel the mystery of who he really was, remaining ignorant of the true nature of his power and essence. The protagonist began to explain that he was the same as the girl who was trying to save her queen, which clarified his true motives and cleared up the paradoxes of their meeting in a world of magic and mystery. Both of them, having finished the storm of clashes and conversations, sat down on a snag in the forest, surrounded by silence, which seemed to slowly restore balance in their relationship. The girl could not accept into her reality the truth that her queen was really alive, and this fact, like a magical blow, deserved understanding and internal acceptance. Ready to answer for her actions, she was willing to accept any punishment that awaited her for her actions, offering her loyalty and repentance to her queen. Instead of suggesting punishment, he suggested that they work together to save his sister, which reflected his willingness to cooperate and showed that he had some leniency in his heart. To console her, he promised that the question of punishment would be decided after they tried together to save his sister, trying to find a balance between justice and mercy. Realizing that revealing the lives of both kings could lead to war, they realized that they had to be extremely careful and tactful to avoid additional difficulties and conflicts in a world where politics and forces could throw everything into chaos. At this point, the protagonist realized that revealing this information would make it difficult to seek help from anyone else, as it would raise questions about travel and loyalty in the face of potential conflict. However, this did not mean that everyone around would automatically become an enemy. There were those who could understand the difficult circumstances and remain neutral in this situation. As it turned out, all this time they were being watched from afar by other vampires, which created additional layers of intrigue and uncertainty in their already established history. A man named Bruno appeared before the couple, suddenly intervening in their destinies and bringing new elements to the already confusing scenario. Bruno revealed that even after 300 years, the Demon King remains the only master for the couple, instilling in them that the bonds of the past are not easily broken. The man wasted no time and immediately asked the boy to make them his subjects, putting them through difficult choices and trials. Bruno admitted that they had no idea before, but after 300 long years, they finally met the bridge to the Demon King, creating a new twist in the plot of their lives. Bruno revealed to them that Rui was their last hope, the key to unraveling the mysteries and to their survival in a complex game of power and magic. To everyone's surprise, the guy easily agreed to their offer, as if he had become confident that this path would lead to new discoveries and opportunities. Iris, feeling responsible for the noise of her companions, asked the guy for forgiveness, trying to remain calm and resolve the misunderstanding that arose due to their sudden appearance. She explained that all of her partners were just deliriously happy, somehow losing control and having an unexpected impact on those around them. The protagonist was also glad that he had more friends, and in this whirlwind of events, he found some joy and support in his journey. The girl sincerely admitted that she hopes for further cooperation with the guy, expressing her readiness to cooperate and develop their relationship. After all the incidents, the guy decided to rest a little, giving himself the opportunity to think about what happened and look at the future from a new perspective. Rui, who remembered in his dream that his room smelled very delicious, woke up with a feeling of mystery and secret that approached him again. When he finally realized that there was someone else in the room instead of him, he was slightly shocked, not expecting such a turn of events, which added a new element of mystery to his adventure. In front of him, he saw a girl standing and preparing food, creating an atmosphere of warmth and comfort in the room, which caused him amazement and an incredible feeling of surprise. On the threshold of a spring morning, when the sun's rays gently embraced the earth, Iris greeted a mysterious guy whose gaze was so deep that words seemed superfluous in their invisible conversation. With a look full of tenderness, Iris told the guy about her culinary plans, promising him breakfast like a magical symphony of tastes, and asked him to wait, taking him into a world of waiting. The protagonist was curious about what Iris was doing in his room, creating a mysterious atmosphere filled with rumors of mysterious secrets and magic that he did not yet know about. Rui is left waiting for an explanation of how the sorceress Iris entered his world like a mysterious star falling from the sky to light the way to unexpected spells. Iris explained with a slight smile that she was destined to be his assistant, as if fate had long ago decided that their paths would intertwine to create a unique saga in their shared life. Iris handed him her creation on a plate as a gift, and passionately admitted that she had put not only her skill, but also all her love into this breakfast. When you look at the table, Iris's breakfast really does look delicious. Bright colors, delicious aromas, and a rich variety of dishes create the feeling of a magical morning feast. The protagonist, enjoying a magnificent breakfast, sincerely thanked Iris for this banquet, at which every taste, like a note of a melody, sounded juicy and memorable. When he finally decided to try something with his own hands, the main character realized how deliciously he could cook, weaving a piece of his inner warmth into each culinary masterpiece. In the atmosphere of the class, the girl decided to introduce herself again, as if revealing her story in new shades, causing a mysterious stir among her classmates. This time, she introduced herself as Ruyu, resurrected and whole again, as if gently mended by the magic of time and fate, ready to weave new stories with her class. Of course, everyone in the class was shocked by this unexpected news, and amazement flashed in their eyes, as if opening a new chapter of the mysterious journey with Ruyu. And so, among the surprised glances, Charlotte stood out for her displeasure, as if there was a discord in her heart caused by the unexpected turn of events in the classroom. Charlotte's appearance and facial expression literally conveyed to everyone that she was deeply unhappy with the current situation, as if her internal rebellion was being broadcast to the entire class. Charlotte, with a demanding, insistent look, demanded an immediate explanation from her boyfriend, as if demanding clarity in the foggy web of mysterious events unfolding in their classroom. In the midst of the flurry of excitement and uncertainty, Iris stepped in, for some unknown reason deciding to hug the boy, as if to overshadow the moment and relieve the tension that had gripped the class. Rui made every effort to reconcile Charlotte and Iris, as if protecting them from unnecessary disagreements and tensions that could cloud the air in the classroom. After a while, they finally calmed down, found a common language, and sat in the classroom like the only harmony in the world. After a storm of uncertainty, the boy decided that what was yet to come, written on the board, was already important, and he peered into the next chapter as if it were a riddle ready to unfold before him. The teacher stood in front of the class, insisting that it was not the race that was important, but those who overcame the wall of power, receiving a special mark as if drawing attention to the strength of the inner spirit, capable of overcoming any barrier. When its owner becomes stronger, it transforms into a golden royal mark, and a special royal mark also appears next to it, as if symbolizing the highest level of strength and wisdom. When the teacher asked who knew anything about this royal sign, One of the boys raised his hand energetically, as if ready to reveal the secrets he had learned in his search. He began to explain that when one thinks of a special royal mark, one thinks of the Dragon King and the Demon King, two monarchs who are completely different from each other in their essence. As Demon Kings, they become the embodiment of brutal force, their power piercing the darkness and causing fear in the hearts of those who dare cross their path. In the martial arts tournament, the participants will fight against the previous Demon King, and the winner will join the ranks of the elite, becoming the next lord, thus passing on the title of a demon with outstanding magical power. Of course, in this fascinating story, Iris saw a reflection of her destiny, as if in a mirror, where magic and adventure are closely intertwined with her own history. Unlike demons, Dragon Kings are born with the mark of a king, inherited from their royal family. From that moment on, they are destined to become Dragon Lords, but they bear the burden of that title from birth. The teacher announced that the next step would be practice, but emphasized that this time their mentor would be a different teacher, as if introducing a mysterious change in the class schedule. Everyone was shocked by the news that they would now have a teacher with a common grade, as if the sudden appearance of this mysterious teacher had caused surprise and excitement in the class. Rui realized that he now had ample opportunity to gain new knowledge and experience, as if the upcoming training under the guidance of a teacher with an overall assessment promised to be exciting and useful. The teacher asked if they were Legas's students, as if hinting at his connection with the mysterious and influential educational institution. The man introduced himself as a traveling swordsman named Kojiro, and announced that he would be teaching them for a while, as if bringing a dose of mystery and adventure to the class. Charlotte, full of curiosity, wondered how powerful this man was, as if his strength contained secrets that could captivate the imagination. The man offered to let them fight him if they wanted to know how strong he was, as if challenging him to a duel to reveal his true strength and skill. The entire class was eager to meet such a great master in battle, as if the flames of passion and excitement were blazing in their hearts, creating an atmosphere of excitement and anticipation. The wolf, feeling a burning thirst for battle, resolutely expressed his desire to fight first, as if he was ready to accept the challenge and show his skills before the great master. Kojiro announced that Wolf and Michael could attack him together, as if giving them a unique opportunity to test their strength in alliance against the great swordmaster. He then drew his sword, as if unraveling the secret hidden in the blade, and prepared his eyes for the coming battle. The man decided to shake their confidence and asked if they were afraid of the possibility of losing together, as if challenging their determination and fortitude. Their discontent grew, as the man seemed to not take them seriously, as if forcing them to prove their strength even more determinedly. Kojiro noticed a strong spirit in them and wondered what would come of this struggle, as if he saw in their determination and energy the potential for something unexpected and great. He then announced that he was ready to fight, a glimmer of determination and experience in his eyes, ready to test his strength. Then the man pushed off the floor, as if flying into the air, and his movements already showed the grace of an experienced warrior ready for battle. The wolf didn't even have time to react before the swordmaster approached him like a shadow, silently and businesslike, creating the feeling that the fight had begun even before the first blow. The wolf's strike, compared to the swordmaster Kojiro's, seemed surprisingly slow, as if time had slowed down, highlighting the gap in skill and experience. Michael could not afford to lose this battle, as if his determination was filled with a burning desire to overcome the challenge and prove his strength. He then used a technique called a bomb, as if suddenly revealing his arsenal of techniques that could bring surprise to the battle. By this point, the man had already admitted that the situation had become a little dangerous, as if the internal fire of their passions was fueling the fight to the point of tension. They were furious when they saw that even a few blows had missed their mark, as if anger and disappointment had ignited the flames of determination within them. By the way, he is now preparing for a new attack, as if the moment of truth is approaching again, and they are ready to face unknown trials. Wolf advised him to bite his tongue during a fight, as if trying to tactfully emphasize the need for silence at that moment, so as not to reveal his plans. Kojiro easily dodged the boy's attack. His movements seemed to have grace and skill, making it clear that for him, such attacks were just an easy stage of the test. And then, with ease and skill, he threw the wolf away from himself several meters, as if demonstrating superiority and control in this duel. Mikhail could not give up, because that would mean that his dignity would suffer. He stood resolutely, ready to accept the challenge and continue the fight. He was ready to use his strongest magic, like in the exciting moment when he summoned his inner strength for the final decisive attack. Michael was slightly surprised that the man didn't try to defend himself, but decided that if he did, he would try to attack harder. The guy decided to use his longest range bomb, as if creating a vortex of energy that would engulf everyone around him in a whirlwind of its power. But Kojiro continued to stand motionless, as if his composure and fortitude were a strong shield against the approaching whirlwind of magic. After a while, a smile appeared on his face and he was ready to strike, as if his gaze contained wisdom and confidence in the upcoming action. And it was at that moment that he did what he had planned, as if the moment had exploded with a powerful blow that left only an echo behind it. Mikhail could not believe what was happening, as if the world around him was distorted, reflecting the improbability and unexpectedness of what had happened. The man asked if they could continue, as if the inner determination and passion for battle had now reached a new level, making them want to go further. But Mikhail lost his strength and desire to continue. He realized that he had lost, and in the end, he gave in, as if admitting defeat to the strength of an experienced opponent. Everyone present was shocked that this man had defeated them so easily, as if his skill had pierced their expectations and caused uncontrollable admiration. Rui was confident that now, after this fight, he would become better, as if in every defeat he saw an opportunity for his own growth and improvement. The protagonist took the sword in his hands, as if feeling the weight of the weapon, preparing for the next test that would take his skills to a new level. The man noticed that the protagonist had strained his shoulders too much again and advised him to move the weight lower, as if sharing his experience and suggesting how to improve his technique. The man admitted that he used to be a nobody, but for a clearer understanding, he added that now he is confident in his abilities and knows who he really is. His persistence left a mark on him as a sign of achievement, showing his journey and efforts to become someone important. The man decided that his upcoming task would be to train the prince, as if a new chapter in their shared history had opened before him, full of lessons and discoveries. James stated that he personally trains the prince and the man does not need it, as if his words convey confidence in his abilities and responsibility for training the heir. There was clearly tension between them, as if there was uncertainty and dissatisfaction in the air, creating an atmosphere of intransigence. The guy said that it was his duty and he could not do otherwise, as if emphasizing his devotion and determination in fulfilling his duties. But Yuri said that the guy shouldn't worry. Kojiro no longer interfered in all this. When the man asked if anyone else wanted some, Michael and Wolf immediately extended their hands to him. James didn't think the man was bad, but he couldn't let others get close to the prince without doing something special. Yuri was glad that he had such a guard. Rui realized that they really had a strong connection. The main character said that James would be teaching him today. Nevertheless, Kojiro suggested starting training. Rui was clearly worried. He didn't look his best. Something was really bothering him and he was not very good at hiding it. He couldn't understand how such a situation could happen. He was sure that it should never even happen. Charlotte couldn't understand why Rui always went with him and trusted him. It was clear to her from the very beginning that it was a bad idea. Iris realized that she had to be with the main character and still had to think about my rebellious behavior. She still didn't need to ruin everything for the master. Usually Wolf was with them, but this time it was an exception. The main character was asked how he was doing. The same stranger, whom he had met by name Frederick, appeared in front of the guy. Rui heard that Frederick had gotten into some kind of trouble again. This was clearly not a good sign for him. Frederick asked the main character who was next to him. He introduced his girlfriend Charlotte and his servant Iris. Frederick noticed that they were very cheerful. The guy said that he had information that Rui would like. As it turned out, Frederick found a dungeon nearby, not far from them. And the main character really became interested after hearing this. But the girl, on the contrary, became somewhat wary after this. Frederick decided to tell this information to Rui because the ruins there could have a connection with the hero, who was still a boy, and so diligently. Rui's expression instantly changed. He was ready to dive into this head first. Frederick told the boy that he was glad that he was able to interest Rui. He found an entrance there, but there is a rather strong seal on it. So far, no one has entered it, and there is also such a template on that seal. The template really had an unusual shape, or more specifically, the shape of a petal or a flower. Surprisingly, Charlotte had the exact same symbol on her sword as on this template. As it turned out, it was a family mark of the family of heroes. It was not simple, but truly legendary and significant. So there was a high probability that this dungeon had some connection with the hero, which could play into the hands of the main character. The girl named Kazak was very interested in what treasure awaited them inside the dungeon. Frederick noticed that the girl had a rather unusual manner of speech, and in addition asked where she was from. Kazaka was born and raised in Cuba, Senpai. Now the guy understood where she got such a dialect from. Charlotte couldn't understand why Wolf didn't go with them today, but as it turned out, he was training with Michael today. After the fight with Kojiro, the two of them began to train very hard and diligently, which was supposed to bear fruit in the future. It was at this very moment that Rui noticed Kojiro, whom he had been thinking about a couple of seconds ago, sitting nearby. It goes without saying that Rui had a lot of questions, and one of them was about what the teacher had forgotten here. The man admitted that he was told that effective medicinal herbs grow here, so he looked for them. The guy admitted that he wasn't here because he was actually going to see what kind of dungeon was ahead. Kojiro warned the students that it could be dangerous, especially since this dungeon is new and it is unknown what kind of monsters and traps are there. Rui assured Kojiro that they were not going there to play, and if it became dangerous, they would immediately leave the dungeon. But no matter what, they need something there anyway. A lot depends on it. Kojiro will only agree to this if they take him with them so that he can keep an eye on them and help if necessary. Kojiro provided the children with a homemade regeneration potion that works on cuts and bruises. But they still have to be extremely careful on this expedition, because the potion won't be able to save them from final death if something happens. Rui was torn apart by how kind the teacher had been to them throughout the entire time, and even more so at this moment in time. Now they were clearly ready to begin exploring the dungeon, which held many mysteries and treasures. After some relatively short time, they finally came to the dungeon. It wasn't like it was a new dungeon, the ruins had always been here, but Frederick thought they had been looted. But about a week ago, I accidentally found an entrance down there, which led to the discovery of this mysterious dungeon. Near the dungeon, there was a group of people consisting of 5 people. They were trying hard to find something, but at the moment they were resting. Kazaka shared her opinion that this group of people looks unpleasant, and she would not particularly like to be around them for long. The tired men's gaze immediately fell on the girl, and indeed their appearance and gaze were not the most pleasant, very angry and cold-blooded. They rudely asked what they wanted and why they had come here. The men thought that someone had already arrived, but it turned out that they were just children, and they clearly found this funny. The next people they turned to were Charlotte and Iris. They told them that it was dangerous here and it was better for them not to be here, otherwise the consequences could be dire. If they walk here, bad adults will catch them. This behavior made Charlotte very angry, although she did not show the full aspect of her emotions. But still one could tell that she was unhappy about it. Iris even said that if they wanted to flirt, they should first start by taking care of themselves because their appearance and behavior were disgusting. The man was speechless after such words. He clearly did not expect to hear such things from the school students. They hoped that they would be scared of them and immediately run away. The man instantly became enraged and even took out a knife, saying that the girls would regret not taking him seriously. For some unknown reason, he decided to start with Rui. Then he swung at the guy and was ready to deliver his blow. It goes without saying that Rui easily dodged this attack and it did not cause him any harm. Then the main character began to attack himself in order to show that the man had no right to conduct such a dialogue with them. Oddly enough, a split second later, the man was simply lying on the ground unconscious after such a blow from the guy. The man's partners could not understand at all what these children were doing and were ready to show them their place as well. Frederick realized that it looked like the 3 wouldn't get inside that quickly, and something had to be done to speed up the process. And everyone knew how Frederick loved to have fun, so this fight had to be memorable and colorful. But the men didn't care about the threats of Frederick and the others, because there were more of them, and he saw this as their advantage. Sometimes you have to show yourself as a senpai. Frederick had created a clay creature or a magical doll. In any case, it was a bad sign for the men, because now they certainly had no chance of winning the dungeon. This creature had a truly mesmerizing appearance. With its appearance alone, it could scare away many pseudo-heroes, as in this case, men. Already trembling with fear, he told the man that the others should not dare to retreat, because they must stand to the end, no matter what. The man even managed to hit the creature and slightly pierce its thick ball of clay. But the problem was that after such a blow, he simply could not get his weapon out. Frederick gave the golem the command to start the battles in order to move to the dungeon faster, after which the golem dealt an incredible blow of force that made the earth shake after it. Then the partners saw their friend already unconscious, lying on the floor, just like that impudent man who was in a similar situation. Someone told Ryu and Iris in a mysterious voice not to move, otherwise unexpected things might happen to everyone. Turning around, they saw a man in front of them holding a knife right in front of Kazak's throat. He pompously asked if they knew what would happen if they moved. He asked them again. Only this time he raised his voice, or if they understood what was going on. And just after these words, there was no trace left of the man's sword. It was not clear who, and it was not clear how his sword was simply cut in half, which radically changed the whole situation. As it turned out, this was the work of Kazaki. Because of the noise, her baby woke up. This baby was some kind of abnormally sized praying mantis, which immediately pounced on the stranger. The insect immediately began to attack the man in order to protect the girl. Kazaka immediately began to apologize to her friend and said that they were already finishing. Frederick had no idea this man existed, and next time he would have to ask permission to look at him and find out more. The men decided to attack their opponents, relying on their numerical superiority, and their only argument was that there were many of them and only one enemy. The girl decided that since one of them woke up, she had to wake up the others too. Suddenly, a multitude of abnormally large insects appeared, and their origin remained a mystery, but now their numbers were strikingly equal. The man was instantly frightened by what he saw, and this seemed quite natural, given the strangeness of what was happening. Stunned by the inexplicable, the man felt an instant fear. With gratitude in his heart, the Kazakh began to warmly express his gratitude to his friends for the help they had given him, pouring into words their contribution to his life with warmth and sincerity. Charlotte and Iris, noticing the main character, immediately began to find out if everything was okay with him, showing concern and a keen interest in his well-being. The guy, rejoicing in his victory over his enemies, realized that it was important that they did not remember them, and now he had to do everything possible to erase his trace from their memory. The protagonist suddenly began using an unknown technique, shrouding his actions in an aura of mystery and arousing interest and surprise among those around him. As it turned out, this was what his teachers had taught him, and he now applied the knowledge he had gained with confidence and skill. By conducting electricity through his head, the hero discovered that he could manipulate memories, effectively erasing parts of the past and leaving behind a trail of uncertainty. When the man woke up, he was surprised to find that he did not recognize any of them, and a blank page opened in his memory, as if the pages of his memories had been erased. After some time, they found themselves in the jungle, and the place itself seemed truly mysterious, as if nature itself kept its secrets and mysteries here. Just a few seconds later, the mysterious seal that Frederick had spoken of appeared before them, as if the prophetic moment of their adventures had come true. Furthermore, this seal turned out to be extremely durable, which only increased the difficulty in front of them and added new puzzles to their already difficult task. Frederick asked if he could ask Charlotte for a small favor, revealing his hope for her friendly assistance in this mysterious journey. It is unclear why the protagonist suddenly grabbed Charlotte's hand, as if trying to dissuade her from something or warn her of an invisible danger. Rui asked Charlotte not to overexert herself if she was doing it for him, and resolutely set about investigating whether there was any way to remove the mysterious seal in question. The girl, of course, was outraged by the guy's reaction, expressing her dissatisfaction and misunderstanding in response to Rui's sudden appeal. Thanking Rui for his care, she noted that his attention was important not only for her, but also for his own well-being. She also wanted to know what her ancestor was like and see with her own eyes the story that formed the basis of her own origins. That's why she has nothing to fear. She strives to uncover the secrets of her past and moves forward with confidence, eliminating fear from the equation. Charlotte then began the process of removing the mysterious seal, setting out on a remarkable journey to uncover secrets and reconnect with the past. After some time, he managed to achieve a positive result, and that mysterious seal was finally successfully removed, opening up new horizons and secrets before them. At this time, Frederick smiled widely, confident that Charlotte would cope with the task, and fully believing in her, supporting her until the very end. Although there was nothing special inside, it was thanks to the hero's granddaughter that he succeeded in removing the seal. Otherwise, all efforts could have been in vain. The protagonist's gaze went into the past, and for some unknown reason he was called out, ordered to stand, creating a mysterious moment in his own story. Turning around, he noticed three strangers standing in front of him, creating a sudden tension and mystery in the air. There were now many more people in the jungle than expected, creating a situation none of them had foreseen. The boy asked permission to join them in the dungeon, expressing a desire to go through together the unforeseen trials and secrets that were hidden in these mysterious places. Rui asked who they were, as he couldn't allow them to join without understanding their identity and purpose in this mysterious place. After apologizing, the guy explained that he didn't mean to scare them, and introduced himself as Max, the leader of a group called Jackal, justifying their sudden appearance in front of Rui. The girl with blue hair was named Jima, and she was a thief. Waving her hand, she expressed her pleasure at meeting him, adding that it was nice to meet him. The third girl turned out to be Mal. Despite her status as a newbie, she was a mage, which added interest to this unpredictable group. Max reassured them, telling them not to be afraid, as they were only at the very bottom of their lowest ranking group, urging them not to judge by first impressions. Realizing that they couldn't do it alone, they decided to ask Rui if they could help them on their difficult journey, revealing their own goal and motivation. It turned out that they had been quietly watching their fight, and, emerging from the shadows, Max apologized for not being able to intervene and help them at that moment. Charlotte asked if there were any advantages to them joining and helping them, finding out what benefits they could get from this union. Max began to explain that, despite their weakness, they had a lot of experience in the jungle and knew how to detect traps, treasures, and secret passages, which their new acquaintances could not do. Indeed, it was true that they had no idea how to handle traps, find treasures, or discover hidden passages in the jungle. The company decided to discuss all aspects of the situation and make a collective decision on how to move forward with this group and what steps to take in their journey together. Max suggested that if they couldn't come to a decision, they could look at the magical items they had, hoping that it might shed light on the next steps. The guy pulled out a charge ring that absorbs the magical power of the one who puts it on and stores that energy within itself. Ruya's heart was touched by this magical object, and it was clear to him that this treasure would be useful to him in future adventures. As it turns out, the ring sucked out Max's magical power, but released a portion that did not enter its inner sphere, creating an interesting moment in the use of this magical item. The next item was the Medal of Body Change, which, when hung around the neck, promised to protect against any attack, adding a new element of security to the collection of magical artifacts. The Kazakh was not entirely happy about this, because this pendant would break from a light attack. After Max suggested the next item, the protagonist could not resist and gave them permission to join them on their difficult journey. The group was delighted with such news because now they had a chance to survive in this dangerous dungeon with the support of experienced comrades. Charlotte wasn't sure that everything would be okay and was a little nervous about it, but she kept a cautious optimism in her heart. After this, the entire group, now united, headed deeper into the dungeon, ready for the new adventures and challenges that awaited them. Max warned his allies that if they encountered a strong opponent, they had better run away, creating a strategy to ensure their safety in difficult situations. As it turns out, the group's true intention was to take all the treasure for themselves, raising questions about the trust and coherence of their journey together. Having caught up with the protagonist, Max announced that he had decided to tell them about the jungle, revealing more information about the place and possible dangers. Better to be careful, there should be a trap in such a corridor, for example, a copy appearing from the floor, or an arrow. At the very moment Max was talking about the button on the floor, Rui involuntarily stepped on it, creating a tense moment and raising questions about following warnings. However, now everyone clearly understood what Max had warned about, looking at what had happened with some bewilderment. In a split second, a huge block of stone appeared above the people's heads, creating a shadow of fear and forcing them to quickly react to the possible danger. The main character undoubtedly felt guilty at that moment, realizing that it was because of him that all these events were developing in such a direction. The protagonist turned to Max with a request to take action, because it was for such situations that they attracted them to their group to solve such problems. Max instructed Mail to take the lead since she was a mage, emphasizing her abilities in magic and the need to use them in this situation. The girl conjured a medium magic arrow and fired it straight towards the huge stone, quickly reacting to the threat and trying to reduce the potential danger to nothing. Max slowly realized that in front of him was a stone devoid of magical power, and that was why the girl's spell remained ineffective, like a fruitless plan doomed to futility. Max realized that in front of him was a stone devoid of magical power, explaining why the girl's spell had not worked. Remembering how the Golden Adventurer had cut a similar stone, hearing that the stone could not be broken with an ordinary stone, the protagonist burst into enthusiasm and instantly ran towards it, sweeping away obstacles in his path. Rui, having weighed the power of his Meteor Fist technique, decided to use it to break the mysterious stone, embodying power and determination in the act. The Jackal group was amazed to see how the boy actually managed to break that mysterious stone, joyfully greeting the success and absorbing the energy of his victory. Iris gently asked the boy to be more reasonable in such situations, reminding him of the possible dangers and risks that could lie in wait for him along the way. I have not yet encountered many different traps and obstacles on my way. Sometimes they had to face situations where they had to work together to overcome difficulties. Frederick noticed that they had come a long way, but had still not discovered any treasure, causing him some concern. The protagonist said that there was an additional path deeper and suggested continuing the exploration along this route. The maximum understanding may come when they discover a way out for themselves. or are able to invent a cunning plan that will help deceive everyone around them. Of course, he felt deep gratitude for the good fortune of meeting such distinguished comrades on this strange journey. Finding that a vast space opened up in places they had not previously penetrated, the protagonist assumed that they were probably deep within the dungeon. Rui's gaze deepened into the distance, and his expression suddenly changed, acquiring a tinge of fear and alarm. Not having the slightest hint of a flying magic ball in front of them, they began to wonder if they were encountering one of the most treasured treasures hidden in the mysterious depths of the dungeon. It was difficult to guess what exactly was opening up before their eyes. The mysterious manifestation, vague and incomprehensible, captivated the imagination of all those present. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a mysterious voice announced that it was conducting a life reaction test and was beginning to analyze the hero's genetic code. Having successfully completed the operation, the process of transferring information to the two began. Iris didn't have time to react, and in an instant the main character seemed to disappear, dissolving into unknown spaces. To add to the shock, it was discovered that not only was the boy missing, but Charlotte too, and no one could comprehend how this could have happened. Max was also at a loss, unable to explain what had happened, since this was his first time encountering such a phenomenon. Kazaka wisely asked Iris to wipe away her panic, reminding her that calmness is the best ally in dealing with difficult situations. Iris immediately began to apologize to Max for her unbridled impulse, realizing that lost emotions do not always help in solving mysterious puzzles. Max realized that their disappearance resembled a magic of displacement. Probably they were transported to another room. Frederick had an unpleasant premonition of trouble. Frederick noticed that the sphere examined them carefully and then transferred two of them. It seemed to remove them, allowing them to continue on their way, but unfortunately, it left us. The sudden disappearance of his comrades under the influence of the magical sphere, which Frederick warned about, finally penetrated Max's consciousness, forcing him to think about the mysterious power effects and the possible consequences of this unusual event. The magical sphere seemed to take stock of the two, transporting them into the unknown while the others remained outside, deprived of explanation and the ability to join. It was because of this irresistible decision to end all ties with them that a mysterious rock statue appeared before their eyes, growing like a mighty giant from antiquity. The remaining group of people were confused, faced with misunderstandings, and helplessly pondered their next steps. For among those who had left were those who possessed unrivaled strength and wisdom. At that very moment, the main character suddenly woke up, realizing that his face was blinded by an intense, snow-white light, as if a bright beam was penetrating directly into his eyes. It was at this moment that it became clear to them that only the two of them had been transported to this mysterious place, and no one else shared this mysterious environment with them. Charlotte hoped that the others were all right, and in turn decided that they should worry about their own safety, leaving themselves as secondary consideration. It was obviously much more dangerous here than in the previous place, and the girl, feeling the threat, immediately grabbed her sword ready for any surprises. The protagonist's gaze darted to the girl's hand, resting on the sword, and at that moment something mysterious and unknown flashed in her eyes. The guy carefully took her hand and gently asked her not to resort to such actions, claiming that it was unnecessary and not required in this situation. In addition, he explained that he was with her to somehow calm her down, because in this difficult and tense situation, any support becomes important. After these words, Charlotte suddenly became confused. Confusion flashed across her face, and she became embarrassed, as if she had not expected such attention. She noted that she was capable of defending herself, but if he wanted, then so be it, she would agree, allowing him to take on the responsibility of protecting her. It is clear that the guy did not argue on this matter and only added that he was ready to become her knight, giving her a sense of security in this mysterious and dangerous world. Not far from them, a stranger in a rather strange and old outfit was wandering, attracting attention with his mysterious presence in this world full of secrets. Before they entered the ruins, there was no one there, and so this stranger became a mystery to them, adding to the mystery and uncertainty of their adventure. With his sword in hand, Rui inquired as to who stood before them, eager to uncover the identity of the stranger and learn more about the one who had joined their strange adventure. In response, he announced that he was waiting for those who would take up the hero's legacy and share his intentions, taking responsibility for the next stage of their journey. Explaining that he posed no threat, he politely invited them to join him, silently gesturing for them to come to him and discover new facets of their fateful journey. Having no other option, the three who came decided to follow him, following the mysterious stranger in the hope of new discoveries. and solving the mysteries of this strange world. As they moved forward, they discovered something that left them in complete shock and surprise, making their hearts skip a beat from the unpredictable explorations in this mysterious place. In front of them, an extremely ancient painting of historical significance was spread out right on the wall, causing them to feel respect and incredible admiration for the grandeur of the past brought to life by this work of art. The painting depicted the majestic hero ogre. His image came to life on the ancient canvas, revealing mysterious stories and exploits to them, plunging them into the depths of time. This painting showed a third-generation ogre. His powerful figure and expressive features left the audience amazed, as if opening a page of history that had previously been forgotten. The stranger decided to answer all their questions sequentially, preparing to reveal secrets and provide them with keys to understanding what was happening in this amazing historical place. The answers must have amazed them, causing surprise not only at the results, but also heightening their interest in what lies hidden in the depths of this mysterious story. He frankly admitted that his face was in a terrible state, saturated with time and rotten marks, creating a mysterious contrast between its history and appearance. He couldn't even remember his name, but it was precisely because of his rotten face that he felt disgusted with his body, considering himself a kind of zombie in this mysterious past. It was the place where the data protection management of Mr. Ogre was kept, where secrets and important information were stored, giving them the feeling that they had entered the core of the secrets and mysteries of this historical past. It is an integral part of this place, designed to properly reveal the meaning of the fresco. It has long been waiting for the right people who are able to unravel the secrets and penetrate into the depths of the images presented in the work of art. Rui couldn't understand whether the decision to accept this position was part of this world, or whether he himself consciously chose this path, leaving a mystery of his own motivations. The protagonist was right. The stranger made the decision to become immortal, based on his own free will, thereby revealing the secret of his choice and the greatness of his unique destiny. The stranger decided to share with the park's heroes the story of the hero and his 3 true and loyal friends, revealing new chapters of this exciting saga and shedding light on their true connections. The group was now faced with the uncertainty of what to do without Rui, as he could easily defeat the monster, creating a void with his absence. Iris was full of confidence that she could easily handle the monster on her own, feeling strong and determined to replace Rui and take on the responsibility of protecting the group. She made the decision to use the blood spear, charging into battle with a determination laced with mysterious energy, ready to fight back against the monster and reaffirm her willingness to stand in defense of her friends. To her regret, this did not bring any results, and the spear simply broke against the stone golem, expressing hopelessness in the face of the unshakable power of this extraordinary creature. Max couldn't believe that the spear actually broke. It was the first time he saw a stone golem, the embodiment of sealing magic, and it made him amazed at the unexpected and strong opponent. Realizing that magic was powerless against the stone golem, Iris decided to retreat with the group, faced with a hopeless situation where there was simply no choice. Despite the difficulty of the situation, she decided to take a risk and try to strike the enemy, trying to somehow damage him and cause at least some kind of response from this stone golem. She put all her strength into this blow, concentrating on the instant attack with the hope that it could leave at least some mark on the impenetrable armor of the stone enemy. As expected, it did little to help, and Iris simply landed back down, realizing that her attempt to break through the golem's defenses had been in vain. A split second later, she had to rush to save herself from the monster, realizing that the situation now required not only strength, but also agility and the desire to survive. Fortunately, Kazaka intervened in time and saved the girl, sternly insisting that she stop getting into such dangers, showing concern for her well-being. Kazaha realized that they must have angered the golem and realized that they should retreat. In order to successfully win, they need to attract more allies and join forces. Kazak was saved by Iris, and she could not understand why she was saved, because her life could have simply been sacrificed in this dangerous situation. Kazaka only laughed at the girl's reaction, realizing that the mysteries and secrets of this world can be unpredictable, causing different feelings and reactions. Kazaka said that Iris herself knew perfectly well why the girl saved her, adding mystery to this situation, in which there is something more than meets the eye. It was understandable that Iris couldn't understand what Kazaha was talking about, because the answer remained veiled in secrecy, only raising more questions. Charlotte was shocked, not believing that a man would voluntarily choose his fate as a zombie, based on his own choice. Rui felt that if he became a zombie, his life and memories would stretch on forever, making him think about the cost of such a choice. However, in most cases, others break down psychologically, faced with the fact that their body is breaking down and turning into a disgusting state. This only indicated that the man had been alone for 300 years, experiencing a long and solitary journey in his unusual destiny. But he asked them not to express sadness, because the fact that they came here was already his reward, bringing him joy and satisfaction. Then he decided to continue the explanation, revealing to them even more secrets and details of his amazing story. The mural depicts the hero and 3 other people, the hero's team, considered the strongest in history, revealing new perspectives and potential for the group in their adventure. This rekindled Charlotte's interest as unread pages of their history began to unfold, revealing endless possibilities and exciting mysteries to her and the group. The information about them remains only here, but his memory seems to be starting to fail, creating a mysterious combination of valuable details and some hole in his memories. The man decided to start with the one to the right of the hero. Her name is the Fairy King Titania, introducing a new character into their story with an exquisite and mysterious name. Somewhere there is a fairy village, and it is there that the Fairy King Titania apparently exercises her rule, adding new and unknown facets to their adventure. Further to the left of the hero is depicted the King of the 3 Worlds, Balmung, representing another powerful character who holds power over the 3 worlds in their fascinating history. Rui inquired about the identity of the King of the 3 Worlds, Balmung, seeking to uncover the secret and essence of this enigmatic ruler in their own epic. The man could not remember, and it seemed very strange, as if memory, like a magic mirror, reflected the uncertainty and mystery in the past of this mysterious king. Charlotte couldn't believe what was happening, and asked the man for an explanation, wanting to solve the mystery and restore the cloud of forgotten memories. Balmung was the strongest fighter in the hero's team, giving their alliance incredible strength and combat prowess, making him a key player in their story. Rui decided that he would ask Wolf about Balmung later, trying to fill in the gaps in his memory and unravel the mysterious details of their own saga. And in the last position was the Queen of Snakes, Ehinda. According to the records, she had the unique ability to see the future. She was the queen of the Lamias, half humans, half snakes. The girl, as well as the guy, unfortunately, had not had the opportunity to hear about her before, as if their worlds had forgiven each other, leaving an emptiness of unspoken stories in their hearts. Charlotte had no idea that her generation would have to absorb such a mysterious mystery, as if fate had turned down a road where every bite opened new pages of unknown stories. They may have been trying to keep it a secret that he had allies outside the human world, with the implication that revealing this fact might soften the discrimination between non-humans and beastmen. There was probably a reason, but perhaps it is better not to grieve over it too deeply, to leave the mystery alone and trust in the flow of life. Rui played a game of ignorance, masking his uncertainty about how and why he ended up here with the girl. He was lucky to be in a key place where perhaps the key to breaking the seal on the endless hell could be found, as if a secret door led to the solution of a painful riddle. The man brought intrigue into the conversation, hinting that he still had something unsaid, as if opening a page of his life, full of secrets and unexpected turns. The man suddenly began to transfer the hero's words, as if opening a new chapter, where reality intertwined with fantasy, and his story became part of the plot of life. In case someone who found himself in trouble needed support, the man had to turn to his partners for help, as the last thread of salvation in the labyrinth of incredible events. Rui was faced with misunderstandings, unable to figure out which partners the hero was talking about, as if trying to unravel a tangle of secrets wrapped in the mysterious threads of the past. The man finally revealed his cards, sharing that their friends were being attacked by a golem, as if a sudden darkness had fallen upon their peaceful world, causing unrest and anxiety. As he walked back easily, questions arose in both of their minds, as if there was a mystery hanging in the air that needed to be solved. Their gazes mingled in search of answers. That was all that needed to be told to the man. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time, but when it came, he suddenly felt lonely, as if the mysterious secret carried not only answers but also sadness. He wrapped his arms around Charlotte and expressed his gratitude to her for everything, as if at that moment words were unnecessary and feelings found their response in the silence of the embrace. As she parted, she said that he too was a hero, even greater than she, as if he had left an indelible mark on their adventure together. The man said his last goodbyes, noting that the girl had the blood of a hero in her veins, as if a mixture of courage and determination flowed through her veins, which supported them in this world of secrets and dangers. And then, literally, he seemed to crumble, disappearing into space like a shadow, taking with him the mystery and the heroic metamorphosis. Having made up her mind, she decided to inherit his aspiration, as if a spark of determination had awakened in her heart, ready to sparkle in the name of continuing the extraordinary path. This meeting and everything that happened became an integral part of her memory, clearly destined to remain for a long time in the corners of her memories. Kazaka began to explain why she had decided to save the girl, as if his words revealed the depths of her kindness and determination, deserving admiration. Iris still couldn't comprehend the meaning of the words that she herself knew why Kazaka had made such a decision, as if the secret of her motives was hidden in the impenetrable depths of her inner world. Max suddenly interrupted their conversation, warning that it was time to run, as if the decision to take important steps required immediate action. And then, at that very moment, the golem attacked them, threatening to destroy them altogether, as if the whirlwind of events had suddenly taken a dangerous turn. Max realized that his attack power was equal to that of an A rank, as if his inner potential had been unlocked, raising his abilities to a new, exciting level. The girls were ready to escape, for they had the means to escape quickly and effectively, as if they had mastered the tools of their freedom in this tense moment. However, despite their attempts, for some reason these methods did not work in this situation, as if mysterious forces were opposing their plans for freedom. Mila suggested that they at least stand silently in the corner of the room so as not to attract attention. Otherwise, they risked interfering with their escape. Max glanced resolutely at the girls, trying to assess the situation out of the corner of his eye, as if his vigilance was aimed at maintaining the safety of the entire group. Max's face expressed anxiety, indicating that he was lost in incomprehensible circumstances, as if the excitement in his eyes reflected uncertainty and the lack of a plan of action. Iris realized that it was time to take matters into her own hands, or they would be destroyed, as if the responsibility for the survival of the entire group had fallen on her shoulders. She then resolutely approached the enemy, preparing to attack, as if her eyes sparkled with determination to change the course of events in their favor. However, the golem's reaction was astonishingly fast, and it easily identified the girl, as if its attention was so perceptive that it did not give them a chance to evade. Iris was already preparing for death, not even making any attempts to defend herself, as if acceptance of the inevitability had been born in her heart. She stood before the threat with wise calm. But for some reason, like the mysterious hand of fate, the golem suddenly froze, and the expected moment for which she had been preparing disappeared into impenetrable mystery, as if the plans had gone awry under the influence of the magic of unknown forces. The golem, as if immersed in the world of a mystical slug, is covered in an incomprehensible sticky mass that has changed its appearance, as if the breath of a mysterious natural essence has penetrated its stone body, turning it into an enigmatic creation. Max, with alarm in his voice, rushed towards them and asked in a startled voice whether they carried any misfortunes within them, as if his caring look could change the course of fate or at least give comfort. Iris, her eyes wide with disbelief, refused to believe that they could stand in the way of the golem, as if she was facing an undeniable force that had been turned into an unsolved mystery. The sticky bomb, a mysterious tool of adventurers, had its own special magic. Its effect lasted only a few minutes, like a short-term explosion of magic that could change the course of adventures in the blink of an eye. Iris, with a mysterious smile, offered them a choice: to try an incomprehensible drink that hid the secrets of magic, or to use a potion, as if opening a door to a world of mysterious possibilities. Mila, with concern in her eyes, began to deftly bandage Iris's leg, as if wrapping it with thin loops of care and friendship, trying to shed light in the dark moment of healing. Iris looked at them in confusion, not understanding why they stayed when, strategically, it would have been wiser to just slip away, as if retreating from danger. But perhaps there was something in their decision that escaped her gaze. Max, wisely deferring to Iris's common sense, refrained from arguing because he acknowledged that she was indeed right, as if calling for wisdom in making inevitable decisions. In fact, it had always been the case that they preferred to leave, as if taking with them traces of an unknown past. But now, perhaps, something in Iris made them stay, breaking the usual ritual of escape. They skillfully manipulated other adventurers, turning them into living bait, as they, in their weakness, succumbed to their persuasion and got lost in a world of intrigue and dangerous adventures. However, when they saw Rui, they wondered if they should adopt such a way of life, as if they noticed something in his fate that made them think about the meaning of their own actions. Remembering his childhood dream, Max suddenly realized that he once dreamed of becoming an adventurer, as if resurrecting in his soul a spark of adventure forgotten by years of routine life. After apologizing, Max stated that even if they themselves did not ask for help, he still decided to help them, as if an inner impulse of kindness reflected his true intentions. The girls were also fired up by the idea, eager to demonstrate their abilities and strength to everyone, as if they had gathered within themselves the fire of determination, ready to write their name into history. Now they had a better chance of defeating the golem, as if by combining their strength and skills they had created an unstoppable alliance, ready to withstand even the most severe threat. The golem came up with the idea that setting the flypaper on fire might free him from it, as if an idea had arisen that seemed to change the outcome of the battle. Realizing that in this situation it would be better for them to give in for now, the girls decided to retreat temporarily, as if strategically choosing the moment to retreat in order to return with renewed vigor. At this time, Max laughed and assured that there was nothing to be afraid of, as if his fearlessness was like a shield protecting against the shadows of fear. Iris, deciding to trust the boy, eventually saw him take out the slingshot, as if in his hands this simple tool was turning into a powerful weapon ready for action. Iris flushed with anger, realizing that he intended to use the slingshot to fight the golem, as if her fear had turned to rage at the foolish decision, causing a storm of emotions. Max, confident in the correctness of his choice of weapon, remained deaf to Iris's objections, as if his stubbornness was stronger than the opinions that divided them. Max boldly fired a smoke bomb, as if creating a veil of mystery behind which he could hide his movements and stir up the situation, anticipating the golem's moves. The girls were delighted that Max would now be joining their fight, as if his decision to fight alongside them had given them a new surge of motivation and strength. The Kazakh gave Mila a mysterious potion, as if this mysterious liquid contained unspoiled powers, ready to be revealed at the right moment. Frederick expressed his gratitude to the girl and admitted that he had not counted on their help, as if in their good deeds he had found unexpected support and allies in a harsh struggle. Now they faced the final challenge, an all-or-nothing battle, as if they were preparing for a decisive battle where every action could determine the outcome of their adventure. Max realized that he would have to show his whole essence, as if this was not just a battle, but a test where he would have to reveal his true strength and skills. He resorted to using the slippery ball, as if creating a clever tactic that allowed him to maneuver around the golem and dodge its powerful blows. The partner used a special lubricant, as if using it to create a slippery barrier that made it difficult for the golem to move, giving strength to their alliance in this battle. And this indeed brought its positive results, as if their cunning and joint efforts were effective in the fight against the golem, opening the way to success. Mila assured Max that he could rely on her, and then used her magic, as if turning her words into reality to support him at a crucial moment. And indeed, their combined efforts began to bear fruit. The golem slowly began to fall, as if under the influence of a combination of their magic and clever tactical moves. Max also realized that even an A-class monster wouldn't be able to withstand such a combo, as if his experience and observation told him how powerful their combined actions were. But alas, unfortunately, the monster was able to rise to its feet, as if its strength and tenacity allowed it to recover from the blows, causing a new turn in the battle. Max couldn't believe that their plan hadn't worked, as if disappointment and bewilderment were reflected in his eyes, despite all their efforts and the strength of their combined approach. Luckily for Max, Iris was there to save him, as if her quick and decisive intervention was a bright spot in their battlefield history. Max couldn't believe at all that the girl had saved him, as if surprise and recognition of his vulnerability were reflected on his face as he met the unexpected feat. Max said that he was now indebted to the girl for saving him, as if acknowledging the debt and expressing gratitude for her selfless support in a difficult moment. But Iris simply did what came naturally to her, as if her kindness and willingness to help were part of her nature, requiring no special thanks. At that moment, the girl remembered Kazaki's words that she herself knew why she saved her, as if secret motives and internal changes began to appear in her consciousness. Iris began to remember how she was rescued, as if scenes from the past were coming back to life in her memory, bringing with them excitement and mixed emotions. She couldn't concentrate. All her thoughts were spinning in her head, and suddenly she realized that you don't always need a reason to save someone. She just wanted to do it and show that she cared. When she fights alongside someone, the strength and feelings inside her are stirred, as if her heart is beating in time with the fight, giving her strength and determination in the battle together. And so now Iris is serious, as if her inner fire of determination has burned brighter, preparing for a new wave of battles and challenges. Now it was time for her to teach the monster a lesson, as if determination had sparkled in her eyes, ready to teach him something he had never expected. She was completely determined to defeat the enemy, as if a menacing hymn of determination sounded in her soul, ready to fight to the end in this battle. Iris athletically dodged the monster's attacks and smoothly walked around it, as if dancing to the rhythm of the battle, her grace becoming a weapon in the fight against the enemy. And then she resorted to using the bloody sword, as if in her hands this sharp blade became an extension of her inner strength, called to fight. And she planted it right in the monster's eyes, as if with a precise blow she had chosen a key point to strike, creating a short-term chance in this battle. This blow was undoubtedly strong and powerful, as if its energy overflowed the space, leaving a clear mark on the power dynamics of the battle. To the girl's surprise, she noticed that the monster began to attack on its own, as if its unbreakable will to fight had influenced its behavior, creating a new twist in the course of the battle. Iris really didn't expect things to turn out like this, as if the monster's unexpected reaction to her attack had left her with a sense of surprise and uncertainty during the fight. Max immediately ran up to the girl to find out how she was, as if his concern and care had flared up at the moment when the situation in the battle became unpredictable. The boy provided the girl with a regeneration potion, as if his concern for her well-being had become a priority in their struggle together, calling upon the powers of restoration. Max, who began to apologize and call himself useless, seemed to be overcome with guilt and helplessness, absorbing the weight of responsibility for the course of the battle. Iris, of course, began to deny it, as if not wanting Max to burden himself with guilt, and expressing confidence that they could overcome the difficulty together. After all, thanks to Max, she was saved from certain death, as if the recognition of his role in their destinies became a bright note in the dark plot of their adventures. And then, out of nowhere, Rui appeared, as if a mysterious character had introduced a new element of surprise into the course of their events, diluting the everydayness of the battle. Rui was glad that he was able to return to his friends, as if a joyful memory and gratitude for the opportunity to be together again flashed in his eyes. The protagonist immediately began using magical analysis, as if his mastery of magic had become the key to uncovering secrets and recognizing potential threats in the world around him. The monster managed to repel it with the stones of the magic seal, as if demonstrating its strength and ability to resist the effects of magic, causing bewilderment and anxiety. Now he understood why he couldn't win, and then he decided to finish him off with something interesting, as if an idea flashed in his eyes that could change the course of the battle. Rui was ready to launch his attack, as if his readiness to fight was transforming his appearance, creating an aura of determination on the face of this inscrutable warrior. His gaze was cold and confident, as if his eyes reflected his readiness to take decisive action in this dangerous battle. The boy used a technique called Space Slash, as if his mastery of magic was manifested in creating a hole in time, providing new opportunities during the battle. And, strangely enough, it actually worked, and the monster fell, as if surprise and relief mixed on the faces of the heroes, realizing that they were on the verge of victory. Now, thanks to the boy, they were safe, as if his ability to make difficult decisions and use magic was an integral part of their survival in this world. Rui immediately began to inquire if everyone was okay, as if his concern for the well-being of his friends manifested itself in vigilance and readiness to support. Max immediately began to beg Rui to share his knowledge, as if there was hope in his eyes for the discovery of new horizons and skills. Rui was glad that Frederick and Kazaha were okay, as if relief washed over him, knowing his friends were well. Kazaka said that if he was going to praise her, he should do it with Iris, as if her laughter and light mockery created an atmosphere of friendly banter. Iris said that she always believed in Rui, that he would return, as if her confidence in him had become the unshakable foundation of their friendship. He, in turn, also believed in Iris and thanked her for protecting everyone, as if at that moment their mutual trust became even stronger. And just at that moment, Charlotte returned, as if her appearance was an unexpected turn of events, adding mystery to their adventures. She said that Rui was a good man for being able to handle the monster, as if her praise gave Rui a new sense of respect and recognition for his skills. The guy is always liked by some weirdo, like Max, as if Charlotte was expressing her playfulness towards their unpredictable friend. The Kazakh noticed that something had begun to happen and began to shake in an incomprehensible way, as if she were expressing concern and a premonition of new events looming over their group. Max shouted as the dungeon began to fall away, as if his exclamation pierced the air, a harbinger of new danger and a call to action. Between the shadow of hope and the emptiness of fear, in the bottomless labyrinth of their fate, The unknown is seething, and if they do not get out, their dreams will be buried alive under a pile of unknown circumstances. Beyond the everyday, which usually reveals a way out, this time the prospects disappeared, as if they were eclipsed by the darkness of unpredictability. And beyond, there was only the heavy silence of the unknown. And suddenly, like an explosion in the dark sky, the protagonist suddenly remembered something that turned out to be the key to the solution, opening the way out of the dark hopelessness. The information that appeared in my memory turned out to be like a key to a locked lock. It was a dungeon, a building designed to store the hero's secrets, where a testing golem, a guardian of hidden mysteries, awaited those who entered. Suddenly realizing that this was not just a guard of secrets, but a double trap, the hero understood that his path would be lined with collapsing secrets, skillfully created in this dungeon. Max was questioned about whether he had accidentally ended up with some object, and there was a hint of suspicion in the question, as if the key to the mystery might end up in his hands. Max had the item, but he understood that using it required permission from his partners, because even in the dark labyrinth, the powers of united minds were important. Max revealed the secret. It was a magical stone of movement. He explained that under the influence of magic, this stone is able to transport them outside, opening the door from the darkness of the dungeon. The stone's capabilities were limited, and the protagonist had to carefully select only 3 partners whose strengths and skills would make them a team capable of overcoming the dark barriers of the Dan. Therefore, realizing that Rui was unable to make a difficult choice, the protagonist felt the weight of responsibility that lay before him in selecting 3 companions for the great journey. The protagonist expressed gratitude to Max, but admitted that it was difficult for him to make a choice, and the decision about which of his partners to take with him remained up in the air. The hero, full of determination, did not want anyone to suffer harm because of his guilt, and this burden of responsibility weighed on his soul, making the choice even more difficult. In conclusion, he only asked them to believe in him, as if it was the last thin thread connecting their destinies in this dangerous adventure. Kazak and Charlotte, with bewilderment in their eyes, could not recognize what decisions the guy was going to make, and their incredible adventure depended on this moment. There was a knowing look on Iris's face, as if she had knowledge of what the boy was about to do, which added mystery and excitement to the air before the unexpected turn of events. A satanic beam flared from the protagonist's hands, framing his figure in a dark glow, and at that moment an aura of mysticism and unknown power hung in the air. Gathering all his strength, the protagonist offered all his energy, directing it towards saving his friends, as if trying to bring down the walls of the dark labyrinth and free the captive souls. Iris realized the whole point. This beam was capable of destroying magic, and if the dungeon was created from magical power, the hero could simply erase it with his unique beam, freeing the way forward. Exhausted, the boy exhaled and declared that now everything depended on the power of the name. As if at that moment the meaning of his words was revealed in the air, saturated with tension. Kazaka proposed a plan. They could fly with the help of her 18-meter friend, as if nature had united with the power of the wind, giving them an unexpected path to freedom. Suddenly, an unimaginable creature took them, and as if captured in the embrace of magic, they all flew out of the dark dungeon together, overcoming the boundaries between reality and fantasy. Naturally, they were all filled with joy, realizing that they had escaped danger and saved themselves from the sinister mysteries of the dungeon, feeling inside themselves the excitement of sudden deliverance. Arriving home, they said a friendly farewell together, as if each of them had taken with them in their hearts a piece of the adventure that had forever bound them together on this incredible journey. Rui noticed that his entire body was pierced by sharp pains, as if every cell was screaming with unbearable discomfort. And at that moment, Kojiro appeared as if from the fog. Having learned from the hostel manager that he still hadn't returned, he couldn't believe that the guy had returned so battered, remembering their conversation in the forest. The teacher asked if he had used his potion, confusion flashing in his eyes, as he did not expect anyone to pay attention to his mysterious experiments. The teacher, having fallen into experimental methods of treatment, used incomprehensible means, because of which the boy felt something very strongly pinching, forcing him to doubt his choice of teacher. To the teacher's surprise, they reported that his potion was indeed working well, which was confirmed in practice and turned out to be true. He was, however, glad that the boy had returned in perfect order, but at the same time he warned, saying that it was better for children not to do such things. Next, the main character had to take a bath, lie in warm water, and hopefully sleep in the hope that all the troubles would go away. Rui still couldn't believe that he was actually worried about him and waiting for him, and their meeting in the forest remained a mysterious secret for him. After waking up, the guy decided to do some sports, trying to wake up his body and get away from the memories of the strange events of the previous night. And at that moment, his good old friend the parrot flew to him, spreading joy with his bright feathers and cheerful cries. And in addition to having some exotic fruit in its beak, the parrot brought not only joy with its shrill greeting, but also with the aroma of mystery. It goes without saying that the main character was happy that he was brought the fruit and thanked his feathered friend for the unexpected morning treat. But it was already time for Ryu to go to school, and she said goodbye to the parrot in an amazing mixture of joy and anticipation of new adventures. Kojiro apologized for the suddenness, but announced that today was his last lesson, instilling a sense of mystery into the upcoming farewell and leaving behind many questions. Although they spent little time together, it was definitely worth it, filling their lives with vivid memories and unexpected turns. Rui was a little stupefied because she couldn't understand why everything was happening this way, and the mystery of this oncoming world only increased her misunderstanding. It goes without saying that Charlotte immediately noticed the guy's strange behavior, and curiosity flashed in her eyes as she tried to decipher the secrets that were in the air. He wondered why the teacher was in a worse mood than usual today, and he thought about the possible reasons, feeling something mysterious and unknown in the air. The man, in principle, carried out his duties, but in the eyes of his students there was a shadow of some unknown mystery, making his ordinary actions more mysterious. He said that when attacking, one should squeeze the sword, emphasizing the importance of reaction, and despite this, his stance became better than before, which surprised everyone around him. Naturally, the guy was happy to hear this, saying that the stand-up routine needed to be improved even further and deciding to go and practice to perfect his skills. Next in line was Prince Yuri, and everyone around him waited with curiosity to see what lessons of skill and secrets the mysterious teacher could reveal to him. Deciding that it wouldn't hurt for him to learn how to wield a weapon, Prince Yuri watched the training process with fascination, ready to dive into a world of secrets and skills. He brought a staff to training, ready to learn not only swordsmanship, but also other types of weapons, adding variety and uniqueness to his training. The teacher said that he was going to attack now, and Yuri needed to try to defend himself. Following his instructions, there was a tense atmosphere in the air, full of anticipation and challenge. Yuri was serious about this training, believing that every movement of the teacher was an opportunity to gain a new level of mastery and improve his skills. The teacher noticed that the guy had a good stance and his gaze was confident, emphasizing his readiness for challenges and thirst for mastering new techniques. It is unclear why the teacher felt sorry for him, because in his eyes one could see pride in the level of preparation he had demonstrated and his desire to improve. But the teacher still decided to start sparring with his student, creating an atmosphere of rivalry and an opportunity for Yuri to demonstrate his skills in combat. Yuri was slightly alarmed by all this, but prepared for the sparring, feeling inner strength and determination to cope with the challenges thrown down by the teacher. Well, it's clear that Kojiro, in turn, was calm and confident. The teacher, rushing forward at the speed of light, threw out his first attack, like a master of instantly embodying power in motion, creating a whirlwind of power. Yuri, as light as the wind, will not give up his position. Like an unshakable guard, he stands as an impenetrable wall, calmly preparing for the inevitable meeting. Joy filled his heart at the opportunity to defend himself, as if a bright sense of pride had ignited inside, emphasizing his ability to ensure his own safety. In the blink of an eye, the teacher's gaze changed dramatically, as if the dark shadows were replaced by bright light, revealing the secrets of his true intentions. A sharp rage engulfed him, like a raging fire, and realizing his impulse, he apologized to Yuri, like a warm wind softening the storm of indignation. Then, as if in a moment of inevitable fate, he hurled a fatal blow towards the student, leaving a trail of mysterious strength and determination in the air, after which, strangely enough, the guy simply collapsed to the floor, as if an invisible burden had suddenly mixed with the weight of defeat, leaving behind silence. Everyone present was frightened by what was happening, as if a sudden shadow of fear had enveloped them, causing their hearts to beat louder in confusion before the unexpected threat. The next thing the teacher did was put the sword to Yuri's head, as if the ominous drama had reached its peak, freezing for a moment in tense silence. Kojiro said goodbye to the guy, as if this farewell contained not only finishing touches, but also some inexpressible weight of unspoken words and unknown experiences. Rui came to his friend's defense, not allowing himself to easily kill the boy, as if his determination blocked the teacher's path, turning the moment into a struggle of fates and friendship. He could not understand what all these events meant. Like a mysterious puzzle, where parts of an unknown picture remained unsolved, entailing excitement and doubt. Yuri's security guard had already appeared, and he absolutely could not understand how the man could allow himself to do such a thing, as if his bewilderment was expressed in his incomprehension of what was happening before his eyes. It is understandable that he immediately flared up with rage after this, as if a storm of passions had risen in his soul, enveloping the flaring internal fire. He promised to kill the man, as if his words carried with them an unwavering determination, thundering like a thunderclap, a harbinger of an inevitable clash. The protagonist asked the boy not to give in to anger, as if his wise words sounded like a gentle whisper in a storm, warning against reckless actions. After Rui whispered something to the guy, he instantly calmed down, as if his friend's mysterious words had quickly dispersed the clouds of internal windbreak. Then she suddenly declared that she relied on the protagonist, as if this unexpected turn of events had given her confidence in the future and created an unprecedented harmony. In the end, he only asked her to protect us all, as if his pleas sounded like a last hope in the shaky dance of fate, slowly revealing its cards. Then he stood in a fighting stance, ready to fight his teacher, as if every movement of his body expressed determination and strength aimed at protecting those he loved. Literally a few seconds later, Iris appeared behind the boy, as if her appearance was an unexpected ray of light penetrating the darkness of the struggle, bringing with it hope. She couldn't identify a single weak point in her teacher, and the difference in strength seemed enormous, as if there was an abyss between them filled with undeniable superiority. Wolf was furious because he couldn't understand why there was no way to influence this situation, as if helplessness had enveloped him like a dark veil. But Charlotte asked the guy to calm down, because he was not alone, as if her soft words were a caress, dispersing the clouds of indignation in his soul. It was a shame it wasn't fair, but there was nothing you could do about it. You just had to watch and remember, as if there was some lesson in that wrong moment. Charlotte silently begged the boy to be okay, as if her gentle thoughts were penetrating his soul, calling for inner peace. Rui finally asked why the man had done this, as if there was a readiness in his gaze to understand and solve the mystery of what was happening. The boy said that he had spent little time with the teacher, but that he, while worrying about them, seemed real to him, as if an understanding of what was important in this connection was growing inside him. Kojiro said that it wasn't that simple, and that they wouldn't understand anything, as if her words were filled with mystery and an unknown secret that shrouded what was happening. He asked the boy to leave for health reasons, adding that he did not want to harm anyone except the prince, as if his words suggested a desire for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The teacher's blow seemed fatal, but he needed to make sure that the boy's breathing had stopped, as if a heavy shadow of uncertainty remained in the air. It is clear that the main character could not let him leave after injuring his friend, because he had no reason to attack the teacher yet. Rui was partly right, and it was not easy to understand why he needed to kill someone, as if a fog of mystery shrouded his actions and motives. However, he had his own reason for this, as if a fire was burning inside him, fueling his motivation, but its essence remained in the shadows for now. If he blocks his path, he will pass by force, as if an invisible wall was in front of him, causing him to decide to destroy it using all his power. The teacher was serious and wanted to finish off the guy. Well, now Kojiro simply had no choice, and he had to get rid of Rui. A split second later, he disappeared from the guy's field of vision, and in an instant he appeared right in front of him. This maneuver looked impressive. Well, it goes without saying that Rui had good reflexes and was able to dodge it. He began to repel all enemy attacks and did it skillfully and professionally. The teacher said that the guy was not bad since he could parry his blow. And all this was thanks to his teachers in the form of his friends and sister, and Rio. The guy decided to strike his blow, but it was not successful. But the teacher's blow had its results, and Rui even moved a couple of meters. The guy even had to use magic to keep from falling to the floor. He realized that he wouldn't be able to hit the teacher at close range, and that he needed to move away. Then, I decided to use a technique called Big Flame. The ball of fire was getting closer and closer to the teacher. It was indeed well-trained magic, but did the protagonist really think he could take on the teacher with it? Kojiro prepared to defend himself from such an attack. He had to put in a lot of effort to do so. He then used magic and was still able to repel the attack. It is clear that the main character did not expect this and was surprised. But the teacher said that there was no time to be surprised. Doing what the enemy doesn't like is the basis of battle. If you convert everything into numbers, there is no particular difference between him and the teacher, but he didn't know that the guy was a difficult child. He was confident that if he continued like this, he would definitely be able to defeat the guy. Here the teacher realized that the boy was becoming stronger during the battle. In addition, he can memorize its movement at incredible speed. Rui learned by memorizing from his sister and Rio. Then the guy finally got to his feet and was ready to continue the fight. He wanted to move away and switch to magical attacks, but he doesn't have enough speed to move. The shuffling of his feet made it difficult to predict the teacher's next move. He just needed to find his weak spot and hit him there. Unfortunately, the teacher was able to pierce the guy with his sword, which was very bad for the guy. The teacher had already said goodbye to the boy. The man felt some hot air around him. He couldn't understand what it was or who it was. As it turned out, this was the guy's plan and now was his final act. The guy decided to use a space cut, as in the case of the stone monster. It was a good move, but only if the guy could hit the teacher. Kojiro, in turn, used a technique called the swallow's tail. After such a blow, the guy could no longer stand on his feet and fell, coughing up his own blood. The teacher was confused by the fact that he did not lose consciousness. He could not believe that he survived his swallowtail. Kojiro decided to check the prince's breathing and just leave. He demonstratively said in front of the other students that he did not like to kill without a good reason. If they leave, he will not harm them and will leave them alive. Charlotte wondered if the man wanted them to calmly watch as he killed their friend. Kojiro realized that he simply had no choice. At the end, he only said that it would be very painful for them. Rui was still able to somehow come to his senses and tried to persuade the man to stop. Whether these were memories or whether he was actually transported to an endless hell, but the essence is that the guy was in an endless hell. The girl said that the guy had become much stronger, but he still lacked something. It was something of a determination. If he got into his world, he would have to face it. There may also be a situation when he has to kill the enemy. Rui said with a kind face that it was not necessary to put his life on the line. If she talked, he might understand him. The girl said that his kindness is his strength. However, if it were possible to discuss everything, the warrior would not happen. Important things can be lost in an instant. Therefore, in this case, he does not need to get lost when he is fighting for life and death. Rui managed to whisper words of forgiveness to the girl, Rio, and then he began to get up in order to continue the fight and not let the man win.